There is a strange kind of loneliness that doesn't happen when you're alone, but when you're surrounded. You reply to every message, you show up whenever someone calls your name, is always on the list of reliable people. And yet deep inside, you feel like a ghost moving through your own life. People remember to ask you for help, but they forget to ask how your heart is. They know you're always there, but they rarely stop to wonder what it costs you to be so endlessly available. In a world that worships instant access, it's easy to become a walking notification, always blinking, always responsive, always on. But a question quietly follows you like a shadow. If you never choose when to appear, how can your presence still have weight? If anyone can reach you at any time, what does your time really mean? The ancient saying, "Familiarity breeds contempt," has never been more true. Not because people are evil, but because the human mind gets numb to what it constantly has. Water running all day becomes background noise. A song played too often becomes irritating. And a soul that never knows how to step back slowly fades into the scenery of other people's lives. Buddhist wisdom looks straight at this suffering, but not with blame. It doesn't say they don't respect you. It gently asks, where did you stop respecting yourself? It guides you away from the old habit of pointing outward and quietly turns the mirror around. How did you train others to treat you? How many times did you say yes while your whole being whispered no? How often did you rush to prove you're no trouble? Always free, happy to help, while something fragile inside you crumbled a little more. We are taught to equate love with constant presence, kindness with endless availability, goodness with self-erasure. But the Buddha did not teach self-erasure. He taught understanding. He invited us to see clearly how things arise, how they pass, and how clinging to a role, even the role of the good, reliable one, can become its own form of prison. Look at your days for a moment. How much of your time is truly yours? Not borrowed by expectations, not pre-booked by other people's emergencies, not swallowed by the fear of disappointing someone, just yours. Many people will realize, if they are honest, that their day belongs to everyone except themselves, and yet they wonder why their energy is always thin, why their words sound weak even to their own ears, why their presence doesn't seem to land. There is a simple but uncomfortable truth: what we give away, without awareness, we eventually stop valuing. And what we don't value in ourselves, others rarely learn to honor. The path of the Buddha begins with seeing what is really happening without excuses, without stories. Seeing how you abandon yourself in small, ordinary ways. That moment you reply immediately, even though your chest is tight and your mind exhausted. That moment you agree to meet, when all you want is an evening of rest. That moment you smile and say, "No problem," while something inside you whispers, "This is a problem." Each small self-betrayal teaches the world a silent lesson. My needs are optional. My time is flexible. My boundaries are negotiable. Over time, those lessons harden into other people's expectations. They no longer ask if you're free. They assume. They no longer ask if you're okay. They presume you always are. You become the strong one, the steady one, the there for everyone. A beautiful title that often hides a quiet ache. But Buddhism also offers a doorway back, the practice of stepping inward before stepping outward. Not withdrawal out of bitterness, but retreat out of clarity. The Buddha himself once walked away from a life where he was constantly surrounded, constantly seen, constantly needed. Princes, servants, musicians, attendants, a whole world revolved around him. and yet he turned away from the palace lights to sit under a tree in the quiet night. He chose absence from the crowd so he could be present with the truth. He didn't do that to prove a point. He did it to rediscover what presence really means when it is no longer used as a performance. You don't need to renounce everything and leave for the forest. But you can begin with a tiny revolution, choosing at least once each day to belong to yourself, to not answer immediately, to not explain immediately, to not rush to fill every gap, every silence, every pause. That small act of not leaping is not coldness, it is an act of inner respect. Picture your life as a house. Right now, all the doors and windows might be flung wide open. Anyone can walk in at any time with any mood, any request, any demand. No knocking. No. Is this a good time? Over the years, you get so used to this that you forget it's your house. You think, this is just how it is. Buddhist practice invites you to remember, you can gently close the door. You can decide who enters when and for how long. You can even sit alone in your own living room in the quiet, not waiting for anyone. At first, this will feel wrong. Guilt will knock before anyone else does. Thoughts will arise. I'm selfish. I'm avoiding people. They'll think I've changed. But as you observe those thoughts without immediately obeying them, something subtle shifts. You begin to see that for years, you were more afraid of being judged than of losing yourself. You were more willing to sacrifice your peace than to risk being misunderstood. In the light of Dharma, this is not a moral failure. It is simply a habit, a pattern built from fear and conditioning. And any habit, no matter how old, can be softened by awareness. So let this be the first step on our journey together to recognize that your constant availability is not just a personality trait. It is a choice shaped by fear, longing, and confusion. And choices can be remade. Your worth is not a function of how quickly you respond, how often you show up, or how many people rely on you. Your worth in the eyes of the Buddha is already complete, like the clear sky behind all passing clouds. From this place, we will walk further, learning how to guard your energy like something sacred, how to use silence as a shield of wisdom, how to say no with a heart full of compassion, and how to disappear from the noise so you can finally appear to yourself. For now, take a breath. Notice how much of your life has been spent trying to earn a value you already have, and gently ask yourself, what might change if I stopped trying to be everywhere and started learning how to be truly here? There comes a moment in every life when the soul whispers a quiet truth. You are giving too much of yourself away, not in dramatic sacrifices, not in heroic acts of devotion, but in the small, almost invisible ways your energy slips out of you day after day. A message you answer the moment it arrives, a favor you agree to, even when your body feels heavy, a conversation you endure, though every part of you longs for silence. These tiny leaks, hardly noticeable at first, eventually become a river that drains everything you are trying to protect. And yet most people do not realize what is happening. They say, I'm just being helpful, or I don't mind, or it's not a big deal. But deep inside, a subtle fatigue begins to bloom, an exhaustion, not of the body, but of the spirit. A quiet burnout that comes not from doing too much, but from never stopping long enough to return to yourself. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a lamp. Give it too much wind and the flame flickers violently. Leave it unprotected, and eventually it burns out. Protecting your inner flame, your clarity, your attention, your peace, is not selfishness. It is wisdom. And the world in all its noise rarely teaches you this kind of wisdom. In a culture of instant replies and constant sharing, the idea of guarding your energy feels almost rebellious. But rebellion is sometimes necessary when the world asks for more than you have to give. There is an old saying in the Dhammapada: "If you do not tend to yourself, who else will?" The teaching is simple but sharp. Your well-being is your responsibility. The boundary between generosity and self-neglect is thinner than it appears. Think of your energy as a sacred fire in the middle of a quiet temple. Would you allow anyone to walk in with muddy shoes dripping rainwater or carrying gusts of wind? Would you allow strangers to toss anything they want onto the fire? Of course not. And yet we allow people, sometimes even those we love, to step carelessly into the inner sanctuaries of our hearts. Not out of malice, but because we never learned to protect the sacredness of our own interior world. There is a story in ancient Buddhist tradition, not a tale of kings or miracles, but a simple lesson. A monk once swept the courtyard every morning, only to find it littered with leaves again by midday. When asked why he didn't simply sweep less often, he smiled and said, "The purpose is not to keep it empty. It is to understand how things enter. This is how energy works. Peace is not something you maintain by controlling the world outside. Peace is the result of learning to notice what enters and what does not belong." So let us begin with a question that may feel uncomfortable. How many people have access to you who have not earned the right to your inner space? Sit with that. Names might rise. Faces, moments of forced politeness, interactions that left you drained long after they ended. You might say, "But I can't just shut people out." And you're right. The point is not to build walls. It is to build doors, not barricades, but intentional openings. Boundaries are not hostile. Boundaries are compassionate. They protect your energy so that when you give without resentment, without fatigue, without losing yourself in the process. Imagine someone knocking on your door. In the physical world, you choose whether to open, how widely, and for how long. But in the emotional world, most people fling the door wide open to anyone who shows up: friends, co-workers, strangers, even passing opinions from people who don't truly know them. They allow everything in, then wonder why their inner home feels crowded, noisy, chaotic. Protection begins with one simple principle: you decide who enters. Not every message deserves an immediate reply. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every emotion deserves your energy. Not every person deserves front row access to your life. Let's step deeper. There is a difference between being kind and being available. There is a difference between being compassionate and being consumed. There is a difference between being open-hearted and being wide open. Kindness does not require being constantly reachable. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. Love does not require exhaustion. The Buddha taught middle way, the path that avoids extremes, and constant availability is an extreme. It is the extreme of believing your value is measured by how often you say yes. But value in spiritual terms arises from presence, not from presence that is scattered everywhere, but from presence that is rooted, intentional, and aware. Look at your life. How many times have you said yes when your entire being whispered no? How often have you rushed to fix something simply because you feared the discomfort of letting others down? How many times have you felt the need to respond quickly so people wouldn't think poorly of you? These are signs not of generosity, but of fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being liked, fear of not being needed. But Buddhism teaches that fear is born from attachment to image, attachment to approval, attachment to control. When you loosen your grip on these attachments, something extraordinary happens. Your energy begins to return to you. Your inner fire brightens. Your mind becomes clearer. Your heart grows lighter. And then you realize you were never tired from doing too much. You were tired from giving without discernment. Your exhaustion came not from activity, but from access. So here is your practice for the coming days, not a dramatic transformation, but a small, powerful shift in awareness. For the next 24 hours, observe before you respond. Notice before you agree. Pause before you give. Let the pause be the gatekeeper of your energy. Let the silence between the knock and the opening be the place where you ask, does this nourish me? Does this align with me? Is this mine to carry? When you begin to ask these questions even quietly, your life will begin to reshape itself. You will find that some people fall away, not because they are bad, but because they were attached to the version of you who never paused. And that is okay. What remains will be relationships built on mutual respect, not convenience. You will find moments of stillness where anxiety once lived. You will find that your presence once diluted begins to gain substance again, like water settling after being stirred. And slowly, you will feel your energy becoming sacred again. This is the beginning of reclaiming your inner fire, not by force, but by awareness. Not by shutting the world out, but by letting yourself in. There is a turning point in every inner journey, a moment when you finally recognize that protecting your energy is not a luxury reserved for monks, sages, or people with simpler lives. It is a necessity for every human heart that has ever felt drained, overlooked, overwhelmed, or quietly resentful without knowing why. This part of the journey is not about becoming distant or emotionless. It is about remembering that your inner world is a garden, not a public crossroads, and only you can decide who walks through it and with what intention. Most people move through life as if their energy were limitless, as if their minds were open plains where every passing thought, every opinion, every vibe from every person had the right to enter and settle. They let coworkers spill negativity into them. They let friends unload endlessly without reciprocity. They let family members take their time, their peace, their silence, as if these were shared property. And all the while they whisper to themselves that this is normal, that this is what caring people do. But caring without boundaries is not compassion. It is depletion. It is an unconscious belief that your worth is tied to how much of yourself you can give away before collapsing. It is the inner narrative that says, if I don't hold everyone together, they might fall apart, and then their fall will be my fault. But this belief is a distortion, a misunderstanding of kindness. The Buddha taught that compassion begins with clarity, and clarity begins with seeing yourself as worthy of the same care you offer to others. So let us look more deeply at the cost of being endlessly available. Think of a well in the middle of a village. If every traveler draws water without limit day after day, the well will eventually run dry, even if it once seemed bottomless. The villagers will mourn the loss, perhaps even complain, but few will ask themselves whether they should have taken less. The well never refused. Therefore, they assumed it would always give. This is the nature of human behavior, not cruelty, but convenience. What is always available becomes invisible. What is always giving becomes taken for granted. You may not realize it, but for years, you have been living like that well. You allow people to draw from you without asking whether you have enough to give. You offer emotional labor without measuring the cost. You pour out listening, support time, reassurance, even on days when your inner reservoir is already low. Then when you feel empty, you blame yourself for not being stronger, more patient, more capable. But an empty well is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that no one taught you the sacred art of preservation. In Buddhism, the practice of protecting one's inner resources is rooted in mindfulness. It begins with observing the subtle sensations of fatigue, heaviness, or resistance. These signals are not flaws, they are guidance. They whisper, "You are giving beyond your capacity. You need stillness. You need to return home to yourself." And yet most people override those whispers with guilt or obligation. They say yes because silence feels uncomfortable, or because they fear judgment, or because they want to maintain an image of being reliable. But here is a profound truth. Every time you ignore your inner signals, you reinforce the belief that your needs are secondary. And once you believe your needs are secondary, the world follows your lead. This is why fatigue becomes chronic, why irritation grows silently, why you may look calm on the outside, but inside something feels stretched thin, like a thread pulled too tight for too long. Let us consider something essential. It is not your responsibility to hold every relationship together. It is not your responsibility to respond immediately. It is not your responsibility to absorb other people's emotions. It is not your responsibility to be the dependable one at your own expense. Your only true responsibility is to your inner alignment, the state of being in which your actions come not from fear or obligation, but from intention and clarity. To move toward this alignment, you must begin to see your energy as sacred, not rare, not precious. Sacred. That means it deserves protection, reverence, and wise use. Think of a sacred flame in a quiet temple. No one walks near it without awareness. No one touches it carelessly. No one would dare extinguish it with thoughtless interruption. A sacred flame is approached with respect, but your energy is far more delicate and far more powerful than any flame. When it is protected, it glows steadily. It warms. It illuminates. It nourishes others without burning you out. But when it is left exposed, it becomes unstable. It flickers wildly. It dims. It eventually collapses into exhaustion. The world will not teach you how to protect this flame. Modern culture encourages the opposite: constant online presence, constant communication, constant productivity, constant emotional availability. But Buddhism teaches another rhythm: slow, mindful, intentional presence. It teaches that the mind needs pauses the way the body needs breath. Silence is not a retreat from life. It is a return to your center. You might wonder, how do I begin? The path is simple, but not easy. Start with one boundary. Delay your response, not as a strategy, not as a game, but as an act of awareness. Allow yourself a moment before you reply. Feel the subtle sensation in your body. Is there openness or resistance? If resistance arises, honor it. It is your inner wisdom speaking. You are not obligated to explain your delay. You are not irresponsible for taking your time. You are not unkind for choosing clarity over immediacy. Notice too how others react to your new rhythm. Some will adapt and respect your space. Others will challenge it, not because you are wrong, but because they were accustomed to the version of you who never paused. Their discomfort is not a sign that you're doing harm. It is a sign that you are growing. Learn to observe the difference between people who seek your presence and people who seek your availability. One values your being, the other values your usefulness. This distinction will change your life. And remember, protecting your energy is not withdrawal, it is refinement. You are not closing your heart, you are closing the leaks. You are not walking away from the world, you are walking back to your rightful place within it. A place where your presence is chosen, not extracted. A place where your peace becomes your power. A place where you give not from depletion, but from overflow. This is the beginning of deep inner sovereignty, the state in which your energy is no longer scattered, but gathered. No longer drained, but held. No longer given away blindly, but shared with discernment. When your energy becomes sacred, your presence becomes unforgettable. There is a moment in every person's spiritual unfolding when they finally understand that silence is not the absence of power. It is power, a deep-centered, unwavering power that cannot be shaken by opinions, criticisms, or emotional turbulence. The problem is not that people talk too much. It's that they speak from a place of fear rather than wisdom. They react instead of observe, defend instead of discern, push instead of pause. And because of this, their energy scatters in every direction, like dust in a storm. But imagine a different way of being. Imagine choosing silence with intention, not the silence of withdrawal, but the silence of mastery, the kind that radiates steadiness, clarity, and presence. The kind of silence the Buddha carried into every village, every conversation, every gathering. People felt his presence before he even spoke. They sensed a depth that could not be explained, only experienced. And in that depth, the world around him softened. This is not mythical. It is a skill that can be cultivated, and it begins with understanding that silence is not empty. Silence is insight waiting to be heard. Most people speak because they fear the discomfort of stillness. When someone criticizes them, they rush to defend themselves. When someone misunderstands them, they rush to clarify. When someone challenges them, they rush to prove their worth. They are driven by an invisible current of ego insecurity and conditioning. But Buddhist wisdom invites a far more revolutionary response. Pause, observe, remain unmoved. Let the moment reveal itself before you add anything to it. Think of a lake. When the surface is agitated, it cannot reflect the sky. But when it becomes still, even for a moment, it mirrors everything with perfect clarity. Your mind functions the same way. When noise rises, when emotions surge, when the ego demands action, your clarity disappears. Only stillness can bring it back. And yet people often believe that remaining silent means admitting defeat, appearing weak, or giving others power over them. But silence is not surrender. Silence is sovereignty. It is choosing not to participate in the chaos that others try to pull you into. It is choosing not to let anger, fear, or insecurity hijack your mind. It is choosing to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Consider the times in your life when you reacted quickly, the argument that escalated because you spoke too soon, the message you regretted sending, the words you wish you had swallowed. The truth is, most regrets come not from silence, but from speech born of emotional turbulence. A monk once said, "If the words are still forming in fire, let them cool before you release them. Fire burns. Cool words heal." So let us explore the power of silence more deeply. There are 3 kinds of silence in Buddhist practice. 1, the silence of restraint, where you choose not to react immediately. 2, the silence of clarity, where you wait until you understand the situation fully. 3, the silence of presence, where your calmness itself becomes your response. Each one protects your energy in a different way. The silence of restraint keeps you from scattering your power through impulsive words. The silence of clarity prevents you from acting on misunderstandings. The silence of presence allows your groundedness to influence the room without you saying a single word. This third type is the most transformative. Think of someone you've met who carried a sense of calm that made you lower your own voice. Someone whose stillness made you slow down, breathe deeper, and speak more thoughtfully. That presence is not an accident. It is the result of a mind that has learned the art of not reacting. When you become that person, quiet, grounded, intentional, you stop being shaped by the noise around you. You start shaping it. This is why some of the most respected individuals in history were not the loudest. They were the ones who spoke rarely, but with precision. When they entered a room, people felt their presence before hearing their words. Their energy was gathered, not scattered. Their attention was stable, not easily pulled. Their silence commanded more respect than most people's speeches. And here is the truth most people overlook. If you cannot be silent with strength, you cannot speak with power. Speech without inner grounding becomes noise. Speech with grounding becomes influence. But to cultivate this grounded silence, you must first confront the inner forces that fear it, the forces that whisper, "What if they think I'm weak? What if they misunderstand me? What if they judge me for not responding? What if silence makes them uncomfortable?" And yet that discomfort is where transformation begins. Imagine someone speaking aggressively to you, hoping to provoke a reaction. Instead of matching their intensity, you remain calm, your breath, steady your gaze, soft, your mind anchored. In that moment, their fire has nothing to burn. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their own agitation back at them. This is not passive. It is a form of mastery. Silence reveals the truth of others. It shows you who grows uneasy when they cannot control your reaction, who becomes respectful when you don't argue, who reveals their intentions when you don't fill the space with explanations, who stops performing when you stop responding. Silence is not only about protecting yourself, it's about seeing clearly, and clarity is the foundation of wisdom. So how do you begin cultivating this form of silence in your own life? Start small. The next time someone speaks to you with urgency, irritation, or expectation, pause. Let there be a moment of breathing space before you respond. Let your inner lake settle. Let the emotion pass like a cloud before you speak from the sky behind it. Practice listening without preparing your reply. Practice observing your thoughts as they rise and fall. Practice recognizing when your ego wants to speak, not to bring clarity, but to defend itself. Ask yourself, am I speaking to be understood, or because I am afraid of being misunderstood? Am I reacting from emotion or responding from awareness? Is this moment asking for my voice or my stillness? Each time you choose silence with awareness, your inner power grows. Each pause strengthens your presence. Each moment of restraint becomes a form of self-respect. Eventually, you will find that silence is no longer something you practice. It is something you are. A quiet strength, a natural state, a spiritual posture. People will feel it when you enter a room. They will listen more carefully when you speak, because your words will be born not from impulse, but from depth. And when you choose silence, it will carry meaning, not emptiness. Silence will stop being uncomfortable. It will become your refuge, your wisdom, your weapon, your peace. And in that peace, you will begin to know yourself Not the anxious self that reacts, but the true self that observes without fear. This is the silence that transforms lives. There is a point on every inner path where you must confront one of the most liberating and frightening truths of all. You do not owe anyone a yes. And yet for most people, saying no is one of the hardest spiritual practices they will ever attempt. Not because the word itself is difficult, but because everything surrounding it, fear, guilt, conditioning, expectation, creates a storm inside the mind, long before the word ever reaches the tongue. From childhood, most of us were trained to be agreeable. We were told to be polite, to be helpful, to not upset others, to be good. Slowly, without even noticing it, we learned that refusal equals rejection, that boundaries equal selfishness, and that protecting our energy equals disappointing someone. But this conditioning is a misunderstanding of both compassion and wisdom. In Buddhist teachings, kindness is never meant to be self-destructive. Compassion that harms oneself is not compassion, it is confusion. So let us examine this deeply. Why do people fear saying no? Some fear loss of approval, affection, opportunities, or relationships. Some fear conflict, worrying that refusal might trigger disappointment or anger. Some fear identity loss, believing that if they aren't always helpful, they are no longer worthy. And some fear visibility, because no forces you to stand as someone with needs, limits, and preferences. But beneath all these fears rests one central illusion, the belief that your value comes from how much you can carry. Pause here. Let that sink in. The belief that your worth is measured by your compliance is a quiet poison that lives in many hearts. It is why people overextend themselves, why they become emotionally exhausted without understanding why they feel invisible, even while constantly serving others. The world often praises people who give endlessly, but rarely notices how much suffering lies beneath the surface. To say no is to reclaim the truth that your life is not a public resource. Think of a tree with deep roots. A tree does not bend for every passerby. It does not rearrange itself to please the wind. It does not sacrifice its branches just because someone reaches for them. It stands as it is firm, grounded, whole, not harsh, not closed, simply rooted in its nature. But humans, unlike trees, often contort themselves into shapes that please others. They bend until they break, then wonder why no one sees their fractures. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we act out of fear, attachment, and misunderstanding. And the inability to say no is often rooted in all three. Let us break this illusion through clarity. 1. Saying no is an act of truth. When you agree to something that burdens you, you are not practicing kindness. You are practicing self-abandonment. You are presenting a version of yourself that is false. A forced smile, a strained agreement, a yes that hides a quiet, please no. Truth is the heart of Buddhist practice, and truth begins with honesty toward yourself. 2. Saying no is an act of self-respect. Every time you say yes while your spirit says no, you train your mind to believe your boundaries do not matter. Over time, this belief spreads like ink in watercoloring everything you do. You begin to tolerate disrespect. You begin to accept more than you should. You begin to see exhaustion as normal. But when you say no with clarity, you restore the sacred value of your energy. 3. Saying no is an act of compassion. Compassion is not avoidance. Compassion is alignment. When you agree to something with resentment or fatigue, you bring heaviness into the interaction. The energy is not pure. Your heart is not open. you are not truly present. But when you say no with honesty, you allow space for genuine connection later. Boundaries purify compassion. 4. Saying no creates depth instead of width. People who say yes to everything live scattered lives. They are spread thin like shallow water, visible everywhere but deep nowhere. But people who choose their commitments carefully live with presence. Their energy becomes like a well, quiet, deep, and nourishing. Depth requires boundaries. 5. Saying no reveals who truly values you. Some people will respect your boundaries, some will push against them, and some will disappear when you stop being easily accessible. Silence and refusal are lenses. They reveal the true intentions of those around you. If someone only stays because you are convenient, their departure is not a loss. It is clarity. Now, let us turn from concept to practice. How does one say no without guilt? How does one refuse without feeling like a bad friend, partner, or person? Buddhism offers a profound approach. Say no from the mind of compassion, not the mind of fear. A compassionate no does not need to be harsh. It does not need to be defensive. It can be simple, honest, and grounded. I don't have the capacity for that right now. That doesn't align with what I need at the moment. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I must decline. I need rest today, so I won't be able to join. I can't take this on, but I hope you find someone who can. Notice something: not a single one of these statements apologizes for existing. You are not asking permission to protect yourself. This is the transformation, moving from the fear that no will cost you something to the understanding that no protects everything meaningful in your life: your peace, your energy, your integrity. Let us go deeper still. Imagine your life as a path through a forest. If you say yes to every request, your path becomes crowded with other people's footprints. You lose direction. You lose space. You lose the quiet needed to hear your own inner guidance. But when you begin saying no, your path clears. The forest becomes quiet again. You begin to hear the subtle voice of intuition, something you may have forgotten after years of noise. Your life slows down. Your focus sharpens. Your purpose returns to view. Saying no creates the space necessary for wisdom to arise. It also creates the conditions for genuine relationships based not on your usefulness, but on mutual respect. When you stop being endlessly available, something remarkable happens. People listen more carefully when you speak. They value your presence more deeply. They respect your time because you respect it first. You stop being the person who bends with every breeze. You become the tree with roots. And that changes everything, because you finally understand something essential. Your life is not measured by how much you give away. Your life is measured by how fully you inhabit it. This is where true power begins, not in constant availability, but in conscious alignment. Not in pleasing others, but in honoring your path. Not in yes, but in the wisdom to say no. Saying no is not selfish. It is sacred. It is necessary. It is the doorway to becoming who you truly are. There is a quiet wisdom that only reveals itself when you finally stop running from expectations, from noise, from the endless pressure to be everywhere and everything. It is the wisdom of stillness, the kind of presence that doesn't demand attention, but naturally draws it. Yet stillness in our fast-paced world feels almost unnatural. People are conditioned to equate motion with progress, noise with importance, visibility with value. But Buddhist philosophy teaches a truth that turns all of this upside down. Still water sees clearly. Rushing water distorts. Most people live like rushing rivers. constantly moving, constantly reacting, constantly pushing themselves forward without ever asking where they are going or why they are in such a hurry. They believe that if they slow down, they will fall behind. If they pause, someone else will outrun them. If they become still, the world will forget them. So they keep running faster and faster until the movement becomes their identity. But running is not living. Noise is not meaning. Speed is not wisdom. Let us look more deeply at this illusion. When your mind is always in motion, jumping from task to task, conversation to conversation, notification to notification, it cannot perceive reality as it is. You become like a lake whose surface is constantly rippled by wind, unable to reflect anything clearly. And in confusion, you lose your inner compass. You stop hearing the subtle voice of intuition. You stop feeling what your heart has been whispering beneath the noise. You stop noticing the quiet symptoms of exhaustion, imbalance, or emotional drift. This is why stillness is not a luxury. It is a spiritual necessity. It is the doorway to clarity, the return to yourself, the path to wisdom. People often underestimate the transformative power of simply stopping the frantic need to respond, stopping the constant urge to fix, stopping the compulsion to be productive every moment, stopping the instinct to rush. Yet stopping, just stopping, is one of the most advanced forms of spiritual practice because it confronts the mind directly. It forces you to face the thoughts and emotions that movement has helped you avoid. Many people are afraid of stillness because it reveals things they have hidden from themselves, the resentment they've been suppressing, the fatigue they've been ignoring, the loneliness they've been masking, the truth they've been postponing, the dreams they have abandoned. Stillness is like a mirror, one that doesn't distort, doesn't flatter, doesn't lie. And this honesty is uncomfortable for a mind accustomed to distraction. But the discomfort is the doorway. Once you sit through it, breathe through it, allow it, something extraordinary begins to happen. Your mind softens, your breath deepens, your thoughts settle, your clarity returns, your being expands. It is in this space, this quiet, unforced presence, that you begin to touch your true self, the part of you that exists beneath all roles, labels, and responsibilities. A self that is calm, steady, luminous, and free. Let us look at an ancient metaphor from the Buddhist tradition. When water is still even, the moon is reflected perfectly. But when disturbed, it breaks into fragments. Your life reflects truth the same way. When you are still, you see things clearly. Your desires, your boundaries, your strengths, your path. But when you rush, everything becomes fragmented, confusing, overwhelming. Problems feel bigger, emotions feel heavier, decisions feel harder. Stillness sharpens perception. Movement without awareness dulls it. In the world of work, relationships, and personal goals, many people believe that doing more is the answer. But often doing less, more consciously, more intentionally, is what unlocks true progress. You cannot build depth while living on the surface. You cannot cultivate insight while drowning in noise. You cannot become powerful while running from quiet. Let's explore what it truly means to be like still water. 1. Still water does not chase. It reflects what comes and lets it go. It doesn't cling. It doesn't crave. Your mind, too, finds peace when you stop chasing outcomes, approval, or perfection. Peace comes when you allow life to unfold without forcing. 2. Still, water is clear. Meaning arises when you can see your thoughts without merging with them. when you can observe your emotions without drowning in them, when you can watch your mind like ripples forming and dissolving on the surface of a lake. 3. Still. Water is deep. Depth is not built by movement. It is built by presence. People with deep presence do not speak loudly. They do not rush. They do not need to prove anything. Their calmness becomes their influence. 4. Still. Water reveals the truth. In stillness, you begin to notice which relationships nourish you and which drain you, which habits ground you and which distract you, which choices align with you and which pull you away from yourself. Stillness is the beginning of discernment. But how do you cultivate stillness in a world that constantly pulls you away from yourself? You begin small, gentle, consistently. Practice 5 minutes of quiet a day. No phone, no conversation, no activity. Just you, your breath, your presence. Sit with yourself even if it feels strange. Sit with your thoughts even if they are loud. Sit with your restlessness even if it makes you uncomfortable. The goal is not to calm the mind. The goal is to witness it. Over time, something beautiful happens. The mind stops shouting. Your thoughts stop chasing each other. Your breath becomes an anchor. Your body softens. Your energy gathers inward. And slowly, you begin to live from the center, not the surface. Imagine 2 people walking into a room. One is scattered, restless, vibrating with unseen anxiety. The other is calm, grounded, attuned to themselves. Who holds the room? Who draws attention without trying? Who influences without speaking? Presence does not come from activity. Presence comes from inner stillness. This is why the rarest people are those who have mastered the art of being centered. They are not easily provoked. They are not easily manipulated. They are not easily exhausted. They move through life with grace because their mind rests in clarity. In stillness, you stop being reactive and begin being intentional. You stop being pulled and begin choosing. You stop living on autopilot and begin living awake. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all stillness is not the absence of life. Stillness is the beginning of deep living. When you become like still water, calm, deep, reflective, you cultivate a presence that cannot be ignored or replaced. Your worth is no longer tied to how much you do, but to who you are when you simply are. This is how spiritual maturity takes form. Not in busyness, not in noise, not in endless giving, but in depth, in clarity, in presence. Stillness is not withdrawal from life, it is returning to the center of it. There comes a moment in every inner journey when you must face one of the most subtle and draining sources of suffering: attachment. Not the warm connection of compassion, but the quiet clinging that wraps itself around your heart and convinces you that your worth depends on how tightly you hold on to people, roles, expectations, and approval. This attachment is rarely obvious. It hides beneath good intentions, disguising itself as loyalty, kindness, responsibility, or the desire to be a good person. Yet when you look closely through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, you begin to see how attachment quietly drains your spirit. It makes you overly available, saying yes when your entire being says no, responding instantly because silence feels dangerous, and staying in situations that tire your soul because you fear what distance might reveal. It leads you to over-explain your boundaries as if your right to protect your peace needs justification, and it tricks you into believing that if you are always helpful, always agreeable, always present, you will never be abandoned. But the truth is gentler and deeper every time you ignore your inner signals. Every time you cling out of fear, you reinforce the belief that your needs are secondary and the world mirrors this belief back to you. Attachment causes you to carry emotions, burdens, and expectations that were never yours to hold, making you mistake being needed for being loved. It entangles you in relationships where your value comes not from your spirit, but from your usefulness, and this slowly suffocates your inner freedom. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from caring, but from clinging, from tying your peace to things that constantly change. And so detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is not abandonment, it is alignment. It is not withdrawing from life, but walking through it without gripping every moment out of fear. Healthy detachment means caring deeply without losing yourself, giving generously without draining your soul, and loving without falling into the illusion that you must earn your place in someone's life. It means trusting that what is meant for you will remain, that what leaves was not aligned, and that you do not need to hold life with clenched fists. Think of the eagle. It soars, not because it clings, but because it carries little. Its strength is in its lightness, its freedom in its release. Ask yourself gently, what are you carrying that keeps you grounded? Which expectations tire you? Which relationships dim your spirit? Which roles feel too tight for who you are becoming? Detachment invites you to loosen your grip, to hold life like sand in an open palm, lightly with presence without force. When you do this, your mind becomes spacious, your energy returns, your heart grows lighter, and your presence gains depth. People who valued only your availability may drift, while those who value your essence will remain, and this is not loss, it is purification. Detachment is not the end of connection, it is the beginning of authentic connection. You stop being reactive, tangled, exhausted, and begin to rise not because you fought harder, but because you finally released what kept you small. You were never meant to cling, you were meant to soar. There is a rare kind of power that does not come from being loud, visible, or constantly present. It comes from mystery, from the quiet art of holding parts of yourself back, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And yet in a world where people document their every thought, post their every move, and expose their inner world for instant validation, mystery has become almost extinct. People have forgotten the beauty of the unseen, the strength of the unspoken, the magnetism of the undisclosed. They rush to share before they understand, to announce before they embody, to reveal before they are ready. But the Buddha taught that the most profound truths cannot be spoken. They must be lived, felt, discovered in silence. When you begin to understand this, you stop scattering your inner world like seeds thrown into the wind, hoping someone will pick them up and see their worth. Instead, you begin to preserve your essence the way ancient temples protect their sacred relics, quietly, intentionally, reverently. Mystery is not secrecy. Secrecy hides from fear. Mystery protects from waste. Mystery is the understanding that your energy is precious, that your growth is sacred, and that not everyone deserves front row access to your becoming. When you share too quickly, too often, with too many people, you leak power. You dilute your presence. You become predictable, exposed, ordinary. But when you hold some things close, your dreams, your healing, your plans, your inner revelations, you cultivate a depth that others can feel, even if they cannot name it. Depth is magnetic. Mystery is magnetic. A person who does not reveal everything becomes a presence that invites attention without seeking it. Think of a mountain hidden often by clouds. You cannot see it every day, yet when the sky clears, its presence is breathtaking. Its rarity makes it unforgettable. The loud hill beside it, in constant view, becomes familiar, unremarkable. Human nature responds to mystery the same way what is always visible becomes invisible. What is seldom seen becomes sacred. This is why people who speak less are often listened to more. This is why those who appear rarely are valued deeply. This is why those who do not broadcast their lives seem to possess an aura that others cannot quite touch. Mystery builds presence. Overexposure destroys it. But mystery is not about withdrawing from life. It is about withdrawing from the performance of life. It means you stop narrating your journey for validation. You stop seeking applause for your evolution. You stop handing out your inner world like free samples in a marketplace. Instead, you allow your transformation to unfold quietly inside you, like a seed breaking open underground, unseen, yet unstoppable. This is a form of spiritual discipline protecting the sacred from the casual. Too many people share their struggles with those who cannot hold them. Too many reveal their dreams to those who cannot understand them. Too many expose their softest parts to those who take them for granted. This is not vulnerability. This is self-betrayal. Vulnerability is sacred. It must be given to those who have earned the right to receive it. Mystery teaches you discernment, the ability to know what to reveal, when to reveal it, and to whom. Not from paranoia, but from wisdom. Not from fear, but from sovereignty. The recognition that your inner world is your kingdom, and not everyone deserves entry. When you practice this, you begin to feel a new kind of strength, a quiet, grounded confidence that does not come from being known, but from knowing yourself. Ask yourself, how much of your life have you given away simply because you felt pressured to share? How many moments of growth have you diluted by announcing them before they had time to root? How many intentions have lost their strength because too many eyes were watching? Buddhist monks are taught not to speak of their meditation insights casually, not because the insights are fragile, but because the listener may not be ready. And in that mismatch, the insight loses its purity. In the same way, your evolution deserves silence, not scrutiny. When you embrace mystery, something extraordinary happens. People begin to lean in. They begin to wonder. They begin to feel your depth. Not because you are performing, but because your silence creates space. And space creates intrigue. You no longer chase attention. Attention comes to you. You no longer seek validation. Your presence validates itself. You no longer need to prove anything. Your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. This does not mean becoming distant or cold. It means becoming deliberate. You can still be warm, open-hearted, compassionate, but your warmth is not available to everyone at all times. It is offered with intention, not out of habit. It is directed where it can nurture, not where it will be wasted. Mystery strengthens your compassion because your giving becomes conscious, not automatic. Imagine your inner world as a sacred flame. If exposed to every passing breeze, it flickers, weakens, burns inconsistently. But if placed within a lantern, protected, contained, yet still glowing, it becomes steady, radiant, powerful. Mystery is that lantern. It does not dim your light. It preserves it. This is the paradox. The less you reveal, the more people feel. The quieter you become, the more others listen. The fewer places you appear, the more they notice when you do. Your presence becomes rare not because you hide, but because you no longer scatter yourself. And rarity creates value. Mystery also reshapes your relationships. Those who are drawn to your essence rather than your exposure begin to appear. Those who required constant access drift away. Those who respected your boundaries deepen their connection. And those who only valued your openness discover they cannot enter your inner world without earning the right. It is not a loss. It is purification. But the greatest shift happens within you. You begin to feel whole. You begin to feel sovereign. You begin to feel free. No longer dependent on being seen, you focus on seeing yourself. No longer seeking to be understood, you focus on understanding your path. No longer trying to prove your worth, you begin to embody it. This is the heart of mystery, living from the inside out, not the outside in. So let this be your practice. Hold some things back, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Share with intention, not impulse. Let your presence speak louder than your explanations. Let your evolution happen in silence. Let your energy become something others approach with awareness, not assumption. You do not need to be an open book to be authentic. You need only be a true one. And the truest books are not read by everyone. They are read by those who are ready. You are not hiding. You are preserving. You are not withholding. You are honoring. You are not disappearing. You are deepening. This is mystery. This is magnetism. This is power without noise. There comes a moment on the inner path when you finally understand that the true threat to your peace is not chaos, not failure, not loneliness, but the habit of scattering yourself too thin, spreading your energy across too many conversations, too many obligations, too many dreams, too many roles, until you become everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Modern life convinces you that being busy means being successful, that being involved means being important, that being seen means being valued, and so you keep widening your life: more tasks, more connections, more commitments, more noise. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper truth. 1,000 shallow movements will never equal one act done with full presence. Most people live like puddles wide, exposed, easily evaporated, rather than like deep wells, contained enough to nourish, quiet enough to reflect truth, and steady enough to be felt. When your attention is scattered, your presence weakens. When your presence weakens, your influence dissolves. When your influence dissolves, you begin to feel replaceable in your own life. Depth requires the courage to choose less, but choose wholeheartedly. Depth demands that you disappoint others before you abandon yourself. Depth invites you to move more slowly, more intentionally, more truthfully, instead of sprinting through life as if speed could create meaning. When you chase width, you drown in distractions. When you choose depth, you reclaim your direction. You begin to invest in fewer relationships, but they become richer. You choose fewer goals, but they become aligned. You speak less, but your words land. You appear less frequently, but your presence carries weight. Like a candle, your energy grows brighter, not when scattered in every direction, but when focused, contained, and protected. This is the paradox. When you stop trying to be everywhere, you finally become somewhere. When you stop stretching yourself thin, you become unmistakably whole. When you stop giving fragments of yourself to everything, you begin offering your full self to what truly matters. Depth is not a limitation. It is liberation. The freedom to quit chasing, to quit performing, to quit pleasing, and instead to devote yourself to the paths, people, and practices that allow your spirit to expand. And so you must ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you being wide when you should be deep? What relationships deserve your full presence instead of your distracted availability? What dreams require your commitment instead of your divided attention? What parts of your life are shallow? Not because you lack passion, but because you have been stretching your soul too thin for too long. To choose depth is to reclaim your life from the noise of the world and return it to the rhythm of your own truth. It is to gather your scattered energy into one place and say quietly but powerfully, "This is where I stand. This is what I choose. This is who I am." And in that moment of reclamation, your presence, once diluted, becomes unmistakably rare. There comes a point on the inward journey when you finally recognize that the heaviness you carry, the scattered thoughts, the emotional fatigue, the quiet sense of being lost, does not come from life being too loud, but from you being too available to everything except your own soul. Modern life teaches you to fear stillness, to avoid silence, to escape any moment where you might actually meet yourself. People reach for distractions before they reach for their breath. They turn to noise before they turn inward. They seek company not out of connection, but out of avoidance. Yet Buddhist wisdom reveals a truth both gentle and revolutionary. Solitude is not emptiness, it is nourishment. It is the place where your inner world finally has room to speak. Most people run from solitude because in its quiet, they begin to hear the emotions they've suppressed, the dreams they've postponed, the wounds they've ignored. Solitude becomes a mirror they are not prepared to look into. But the very truths you avoid are the ones quietly steering your life. Solitude is the medicine that clears the fog, the stillness that allows the dust inside you to settle so you can finally see again. It is where the mind reorganizes itself, where clarity rises from beneath the noise, where intuition returns home. Without solitude, you drift through life reacting instead of responding, absorbing instead of choosing, pleasing instead of living. When you choose even a few minutes of intentional aloneness, your energy begins to return to you. Your thoughts slow, your breath deepens, your inner landscape softens. You start to hear the subtle inner voice that has been drowned out for years, the voice that whispers what you truly desire, what drains you, what you must release, and who you are trying to become. Solitude strengthens emotional independence, teaching you to rely on your own presence instead of craving others to fill your emptiness. It reveals which relationships nourish your spirit and which ones merely distract you from yourself. It exposes your patterns, your fears, your truths, not as punishments, but as invitations to grow. And the deeper you go into solitude, the more you discover a remarkable shift. You stop running from your emotions because you finally understand they are not enemies, but messengers. You stop fearing silence because you realize it is not void, but guidance. You stop chasing people because you no longer fear being alone. The most important relationship you will ever build is the one with your own being. And solitude is where that relationship finally begins to bloom. When you become comfortable with your own company, you no longer cling to what drains you. You no longer beg to be seen. You no longer seek validation in every corner of life. You begin to walk with a calm confidence that does not need to be announced. Solitude becomes your anchor, your refuge, your inner temple. It is where authenticity grows, where intuition sharpens, where self-respect strengthens, where your true path becomes visible. And so the practice is simple, but transformative. Give yourself the gift of quiet, not when the world falls apart, but every day before the noise begins, before the mind scatters, before you lose yourself in the demands of others. Sit with yourself. Breathe with yourself. Listen to yourself, because in the silence you once feared, you will finally meet the person you have been searching for all along you. There comes a transformative moment in your journey when you finally understand that most of your suffering does not come from what happens around you, but from how instantly and unconsciously you react to it. Life offers you countless moments, unexpected comments, stressful situations, misunderstandings, disappointments, tiny triggers, and instead of observing them, you leap toward them with emotional impulse. You let every passing wave shake the shore of your mind. You absorb tension that is not yours. You respond before you breathe. And so the world becomes a storm, not because it is chaotic, but because you have not learned the art of still observation. Buddhist wisdom teaches that power does not belong to those who control the world. It belongs to those who control their reactions. When you react blindly, your mind becomes like a leaf tossed in the wind, constantly pulled, pushed, shaken, and carried by the moods of others. But when you observe, you become like the sky, vast, unmoved, spacious, watching the weather pass without losing your nature. The Buddha often compared the untrained mind to wild animals, quick to jump, quick to fear, quick to defend. But he also taught that with awareness, the mind becomes a calm guardian, able to see events clearly instead of fusing with them. Reaction is unconscious. Observation is awakening. When you react, you collapse into the moment and become its prisoner. When you observe, you rise above the moment and become its master. Think of the times you responded too quickly, the message you regretted sending, the argument that spiraled, the tension that grew, because you fed it the decision made out of fear rather than clarity. All of these moments reveal one truth: impulsive reaction is often a doorway to regret. But when you observe first, everything shifts. Observation creates space to breathe, space to understand, space to choose. In that space, emotions lose their power to control you. You begin to see anger as a sensation rising and falling, not as a command. You see fear as a tightening in the chest, not as a prophecy. You see insecurity as an old story resurfacing, not as reality. And with this awareness, you gain something that cannot be taken from you: emotional sovereignty. This does not mean suppressing your feelings. Suppression is another form of reaction, pushing emotions away because you fear them. Observation means meeting emotions as guests, not threats. You watch them enter, stay briefly, and leave. You witness their rise and fall with the same neutrality that you witness the breath entering and exiting the body. When you practice this, you begin to understand a profound truth. Emotions are movements, not identities. They do not define you. They simply pass through you. And yet most people treat emotions as orders to obey. If anger rises, they must speak. If sadness emerges, they must collapse. If fear appears, they must retreat. But the awakened mind sees emotions as visitors, not rulers. This shift from identification to observation changes your entire life. You stop internalizing every comment. You stop absorbing other people's moods. You stop turning small moments into large crises. You stop allowing external events to dictate your internal state. Instead, you develop the ability to pause, breathe, and perceive reality clearly, because most suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by the mental stories you create around them. A pause interrupts the story. A breath dissolves the tension. Observation reveals the truth behind the noise. Imagine sitting beside a river. When you react, you jump into the water and get carried away. When you observe, you stay on the bank and let the current pass. The river keeps flowing, but you remain centered. This is the practice that monks cultivate in silence, the ability to witness without drowning. And you can practice it anywhere, in conversations, in conflict, in stress, in uncertainty. Before responding, feel the breath. Before defending, feel the body. Before reacting, watch the mind. You may notice irritation rising. Let it rise. You may feel fear tightening the stomach. Let it tighten. You may see old wounds appearing. Let them appear. You do not chase them, avoid them, or obey them. You simply observe. And in that observation, the energy loses its grip. What once controlled you becomes something you can gently release. What once triggered you becomes something you can understand. What once overwhelmed you becomes something you can hold with compassion. This is true emotional maturity, not the absence of feeling, but the presence of awareness. When you master observation, you transform every relationship. Conversations soften because you no longer escalate conflict with impulsive reactions. Challenges become manageable because your mind no longer fuels them with fear. Stress becomes lighter because you stop creating additional suffering through mental resistance. You begin to see that most problems dissolve the moment you stop feeding them with unjustified urgency. People who once could provoke you lose their power. Situations that once overwhelmed you lose their chaos. Thoughts that once frightened you lose their authority, because you have stepped out of the role of participant and into the role of observer. And the observer is always free. The observer is always calm. The observer is always awake. This is why the Buddha said, "In the seeing, only the seen. In the hearing, only the heard." He was teaching the art of meeting life directly without adding stories, judgments, fears, or fantasies. Life becomes lighter when you stop adding weight to it. Suffering decreases when you stop arguing with reality. Peace arises naturally when you stop reacting and start witnessing. So let this become your practice. Respond from awareness, not emotion. Speak from clarity, not impulsiveness. Act from presence, not conditioning. Become the one who sees rather than the one who is swept away. Because the moment you learn to observe instead of react is the moment you step into your true power, a power that no situation, no person, no emotion can ever take from you. There comes a turning point in your awakening when you finally see why you feel drained, overlooked, or unappreciated, not because others fail to value you, but because you have placed yourself so close, so constantly, so unquestioningly within everyone's reach that your presence has lost its sacredness. The Buddha taught that all things in life require space to be seen clearly. Mountains in the distance, lanterns in the dark. Even the breath requires a moment of pause to reveal its depth. Yet most people move through life pressed against others, pressed against obligations, pressed against expectations, believing that closeness guarantees connection, forgetting that too much closeness dissolves appreciation. When you are always within arm's reach, people forget the effort required to reach for you. When you respond instantly, people forget the value of your time. When you bend your schedule to fit others, people forget that your presence is a choice, not an obligation. And slowly, silently, you begin to burn out, not from giving, but from giving without boundaries, without discernment, without rest. This is why the principle of distance is not withdrawal. It is wisdom. It is choosing your placement in the world, the way a monk chooses where to sit in the meditation hall, not in the center of noise, but in the place where clarity can arise. Distance creates perspective. Distance restores value. Distance gives your presence space to breathe. When you step back from people even slightly, something profound happens. They begin to see you again. Not the version of you blurred by over-availability, but the version of you who carries quiet strength. When you stop appearing at every request, your yes regains its meaning. When you stop reacting immediately, your voice regains its weight. When you stop offering yourself without pause, your energy regains its purity. Distance is not a wall, it is a mirror. It shows you who respects your boundaries and who resents them. It shows you who adjusts to your rhythm and who demands your return to theirs. It shows you who values your essence and who valued only your accessibility. And this clarity, though sometimes painful, is liberating. Because the truth is simple, you cannot be respected where you do not respect yourself. If you treat your time as disposable, others will treat it as endless. If you treat your energy as limitless, others will consume it without awareness. If you treat your presence as guaranteed, others will take it for granted. But the moment you step back, gently, calmly, intentionally, you begin to re-establish the natural sacredness of your presence. Imagine a flame. When you stand too close, the light is almost blinding. You cannot appreciate its shape, its warmth, its beauty. Step back even slightly, and the flame becomes visible, steady, luminous, centered. Your presence functions the same way. Too close, you become overly familiar. Familiarity becomes invisibility. Step back, and your presence sharpens. People feel you again. They notice what you bring. They sense the quiet gravity of your energy, and the world begins to shift in response. But creating distance does not require conflict. You do not need to announce it, explain it, justify it, or apologize for it. True distance is silent, peaceful, natural. It is created through simple acts of self-respect, taking longer to reply, declining what drains you, protecting your time, choosing rest over obligation, choosing presence over performance. These small acts teach the world how to treat you, but more importantly, they teach you how to treat yourself. When you distance yourself from noise, you hear your intuition more clearly. When you distance yourself from chaos, you feel your breath more deeply. When you distance yourself from those who drain you, you reconnect with your inner strength. In this space, you begin to feel a new kind of confidence, not the loud confidence that seeks attention, but the soft confidence that arises from alignment. People sense when you no longer need their approval. People feel when your energy is no longer easily accessed. People respond differently when your presence becomes intentional, not automatic. Distance does not push people away. It simply filters who belongs close. Those who resonate with your truth will respect your space. Those who only benefited from your availability will resist it. Let them. Their resistance is not your signal to return. It is your confirmation that distance is needed. The Buddha taught that the middle way is not about avoiding the world. It is about relating to it with wisdom. In the same way, the distance you create is not avoidance, it is alignment. It is the recognition that your life is a garden, and not every hand should be allowed to reach into the soil. Some hands plant, some hands uproot, some hands simply take. Your task is not to remain endlessly accessible. Your task is to remain true. And truth requires space. When you step back, your mind steadies. Your heart breathes. Your soul reclaims its place at the center of your life, not on the periphery where it has been pushed by constant availability. And slowly, the world learns your rhythm. Your presence regains its gravity. Your energy regains its purity. You become someone people approach thoughtfully, speak to respectfully, listen to carefully. Not because you demanded respect, but because you finally remembered that your presence is sacred. And what is sacred? must be protected with quiet strength, not endless access. Let this be your reminder. Distance is not disconnection. It is dignity. It is not rejection. It is recalibration. It is not selfishness. It is self-respect. When you honor your space, the world learns to honor you. When you step back, you don't fade, you rise. There comes a profound realization on the spiritual path when you finally understand that the life you are living may not truly be yours, that your days, your choices, your habits, your direction have been shaped not by inner wisdom, but by the silent pressure of approval, expectation, and the need to be accepted. Most people do not design their lives, they inherit them. They follow invisible scripts written by family, society, culture, and fear. They say yes because they fear rejection. They pursue goals because they fear falling behind. They adopt identities because they fear being misunderstood. And slowly, without noticing, they become strangers to their own soul. But Buddhism teaches something radically liberating. Your life is your practice. Your choices are your liberation. Your path is yours alone. The moment you begin making decisions from intention rather than approval, your life begins to transform from the inside out. Approval seeks to satisfy the world. Intention seeks to satisfy the truth. Approval lives in fear. Intention lives in clarity. Approval bends. Intention stands. The world teaches you to chase acceptance, but acceptance is a bottomless well. You can pour your entire life into it and never fill it. Intentional living, however, asks a different question. What is true for me? What aligns with my spirit? What nourishes my peace? What feels like home inside my chest? For most people, these questions have been buried beneath layers of noise, obligation, social comparison, and unexamined habits. But once you begin to ask them even quietly, your life starts shifting. You begin to see how many choices you've made from fear. Fear of disappointing someone. Fear of falling short. Fear of being judged. Fear of being different. You notice how many dreams you've postponed because someone said they were unrealistic. You notice how many boundaries you've abandoned because someone didn't like them. You notice how often you reshaped yourself to fit a mold that wasn't made for you. And the truth rises gently but unmistakably. You cannot awaken while living a life that isn't yours. Designing your life with intention is not about abandoning people or becoming rigid. It is about peeling away every choice, habit, and expectation that does not resonate with your inner truth. It is about living from the inside outward, not from the outside inward. It is understanding that if your path does not reflect your values, no amount of approval will bring peace. You begin to ask, why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? Does this lead me toward myself or away from myself? And these questions become the quiet compass guiding your days. Intentional living means you stop chasing every opportunity simply because it exists. You start choosing only what aligns. It means you stop pursuing goals that do not belong to your heart. You start building ones that feel soulful, meaningful, alive. It means you stop performing for applause. You start creating from authenticity. It means you stop silencing your needs to keep others comfortable. You start honoring your truth, even when it inconveniences others. And here is the miracle. When you begin living intentionally, your life simplifies. The noise falls away. The unnecessary obligations crumble. The relationships built on performance fade. The commitments that drained you dissolve. You begin to feel your breath again. You begin to hear your intuition again. You begin to recognize your own voice, the one that has been buried under years of approval seeking. This inner voice is quiet but unwavering. It whispers rather than shouts. It guides rather than pushes. It knows where your peace lives. And when you follow it, life begins to feel aligned, not perfect, but true. Designing your life with intention also means embracing the discomfort of being misunderstood. When you choose authenticity over approval, people who benefited from your conformity may resist. People who relied on your self-sacrifice may protest. People who liked the version of you that bent easily may not understand the version of you that now stands firm. But this is not a sign to turn back. It is a sign that you are finally stepping into your true path. The Buddha taught that truth is not always pleasing. At first, it disrupts illusions, but it brings a deeper peace that is not dependent on praise or validation. When you act from intention, your decisions become cleaner. Your boundaries become natural. Your relationships become clearer. Your days feel purposeful. You no longer wake up feeling pulled in 10 directions. You no longer end each day feeling scattered and drained. Instead, you feel anchored alive in your own skin, present in your own choices, connected to your own journey. This kind of living is not grand or dramatic. It is subtle, steady, deeply transformative. It is waking each day and choosing what aligns even in small ways. It is saying no when your spirit feels heavy. It is saying yes when your heart expands. It is walking away when your peace is disturbed. It is staying when your soul says, "This is home." It is trusting the quiet direction of your own being, and over time your life becomes a reflection, not of who others wanted you to be, but of who you truly are. The question then becomes, if you stopped seeking approval, what kind of life would you create? If you stopped performing, who would you become? If you stopped living from fear, what path would you finally walk? Somewhere inside you, the answers already exist. And when you begin designing your life with intention rather than approval, you finally make space for those answers to rise. Because the life you seek is not waiting outside of you. It is waiting for you to return to yourself. There comes a moment in your evolution when you finally understand that peace is not something the world gives you. It is something you cultivate through inner discipline, moment by moment, choice by choice. And perhaps the most essential of these disciplines is learning to protect your inner world with clarity, strength, and unwavering self-respect. Too many people live as if their mind were a public hallway, open for anyone to walk through with muddy shoes, dropping their frustrations, their expectations, their demands, their chaos, while you silently absorb it all. You let others shape your emotional state without even realizing it. You let their urgency dictate your pace, their moods dictate your energy, their opinions dictate your self-worth. But the truth is simple and liberating. Not everything deserves access to your inner world. Some energies must be filtered. Some conversations must be declined. Some people must be kept at a distance. Some situations must be walked away from. You do not protect your peace by controlling the world. You protect your peace by controlling what you let inside. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a house. If you do not know how to guard its doors, anything can enter. And most people, without noticing, leave their doors wide open. They allow gossip to enter, fear to enter, comparison to enter, chaos to enter, anger to enter. They engage with every comment, react to every provocation, answer every message, internalize every emotion that floats their way. This constant openness is not compassion. It is exhaustion. It is a life lived without boundaries. Protecting your peace begins with recognizing that your energy is not infinite. Every reaction costs you something. Every interaction shapes your inner state. Every moment spent absorbing noise is a moment stolen from clarity. And so the awakened path invites you to become intentional, to choose what you engage with, to choose what you release, to choose what you allow to enter the sacred space of your mind. This does not mean shutting yourself off from life. It means learning to step into life with discernment. It means asking, does this conversation nourish or drain me? Does this person bring clarity or confusion? Does this situation align with my values or distract me from them? Does this choice expand my peace or disturb it? Protection is not a wall. It is a filter. It is the quiet strength to say no without guilt, not now without fear, and not for me without apology. It is the wisdom to walk away when your spirit feels heavy, the courage to decline invitations that do not align, the clarity to step back from dynamics that cloud your mind. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is sacred responsibility. Because when your peace is intact, your presence becomes medicine. You speak more gently. You see more clearly. You act more intentionally. You love more authentically. A peaceful person contributes peace to the world. A disturbed person spreads disturbance. This is why cultivating inner stillness is not personal luxury. It is a form of compassionate living. You cannot offer clarity if you are drowning in noise. You cannot offer kindness when your heart is exhausted. You cannot offer presence when your mind is scattered. And yet many people keep giving from an empty cup, hoping generosity will somehow refill them. But wisdom teaches the opposite. Fill yourself first, then give from the overflow. When you protect your peace, you begin to see life differently. You notice how much of your stress was inherited, not chosen. You see that many conflicts dissolve when you stop feeding them. You feel how quickly the nervous system calms when you stop engaging with negativity. You realize that some people thrive on drama, and the most compassionate response is distance, not involvement. You discover that silence is often more powerful than explanation. You begin to understand that your peace is not fragile, it is simply unguarded. And once you guard it, it becomes unshakable. From this clarity arises a profound shift. Your boundaries become natural rather than forced. You stop chasing closure and accept the truth that not all doors need to be reopened. You stop trying to fix people who do not want to change. You stop seeking validation from places that drain your spirit. You stop explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding it. Protecting your peace means trusting your inner signals, the tightening in your chest, the heaviness in your mind, the sense of misalignment you feel around certain people or situations. These are not weaknesses. They are messages, your intuition urging you to step back. And when you honor these signals, your life begins to align effortlessly. The right people feel lighter. The right choices feel clearer. The right opportunities feel natural. You no longer force what resists. You no longer cling to what hurts. You no longer chase what pulls away. Protecting your peace ultimately leads you back to yourself, your breath, your clarity, your intuition, your inner home. You begin to realize that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of alignment. It is not the lack of noise, but the ability to remain quiet inside yourself. It is not detachment from life, but a deeper, calmer relationship with it. And so the greatest gift you can give yourself is this vow: I will no longer allow the world to disturb my inner sanctuary. Because when your peace becomes non-negotiable, everything in your life rises to meet it. There comes a subtle but life-changing realization on the path of awakening. Most of your exhaustion does not come from doing too much, but from holding on to too much. The thoughts you replay, the expectations you cling to, the identities you refuse to release, the versions of yourself you no longer are. These weigh more heavily on the spirit than any physical burden ever could. You carry memories that have finished their work, relationships that have reached their lesson, responsibilities that were never yours, and emotional debts that can never be repaid. And still, you hold on, not because you want to suffer, but because letting go feels like losing control. But Buddhism teaches a truth both simple and liberating. Freedom is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. Like opening the hand that has been clenched in fear for too long. Like releasing the rope you've been pulling in a tug of war that leads nowhere. Like loosening the armor you once needed, but now suffocates you. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom, the recognition that clinging does not preserve anything. It only prolongs your suffering. Just as a river cannot flow while gripping its own waters, you cannot grow while gripping everything you're afraid to lose. Most of the heaviness you feel is not life itself, but the resistance to life as it is. You resist change by holding on to the familiar. You resist truth by holding on to your stories. You resist peace by holding on to conflict. You resist growth by holding on to old fears. But in moments of clarity, you notice something profound. What you cling to is often what hurts you, and what you fear releasing is often what sets you free. Letting go is not abandoning life. It is participating in its natural rhythm. Everything breathes, the lungs expand and contract, the tides rise and fall, the seasons blossom and fade. Yet humans cling to what must move, to what must evolve, to what must end. You cling because you think holding on keeps you safe. You cling because you believe release means loss. But in reality, clinging is the loss of peace, of clarity, of alignment, of the life waiting on the other side of surrender. Let go of the belief that everything is your responsibility. Let go of the pressure to maintain what no longer feels alive. Let go of the fear that without your control, things will fall apart. Let go of relationships that shrink your spirit. Let go of roles that no longer match your becoming. Let go of the old self that kept you surviving, but cannot help you evolve. Letting go is not a single act. It is a practice. Sometimes it feels like a sigh, other times like a quiet mourning. Sometimes it feels like relief, other times like uncharted space. But every release creates room for newness, for clarity, for truth. You cannot invite what is meant for you if your hands are full of what is no longer aligned. You cannot rise into your next chapter carrying the weight of all your old ones. Letting go does not always mean walking away. Sometimes it means loosening your grip on expectations, allowing people to be who they are not, who you want them to be. Allowing life to unfold without forcing your timeline. Allowing yourself to change without demanding permission. Allowing joy to return without guilt. Letting go also means trusting that what is meant for you will not require you to betray yourself to keep it. Trusting that endings are not punishments, they are openings. Trusting that peace is not found in control, but in surrender. Trusting that life does not take without giving it simply clears space for what is next. In this quiet surrender, you begin to feel lighter, not because the world changed, but because you did. You stop reliving old wounds. You stop fighting truths that already happened. You stop gripping what drains you. You stop carrying what breaks you. And slowly, you feel yourself rising. Not forcefully, not dramatically, but naturally, like a lotus emerging after releasing the weight of the mud beneath it. Letting go is the great return to clarity, to freedom, to yourself. And when you finally release what was never yours to carry, you discover something stunning. You were never lacking wings. You were simply holding on to stones. This is the freedom you have been searching for, not outside yourself, but in the quiet courage to let go. There comes a turning point in your inner transformation when you finally understand that not every truth needs to be spoken, not every emotion needs to be expressed, and not every thought deserves to become a conversation. In a world addicted to noise, expression is worshipped while restraint is misunderstood. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper truth. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is the presence of mastery. Most people speak to relieve themselves, not to resolve anything. They speak to fill the emptiness inside, to soothe their insecurity, to prove their worth, to defend their ego, to avoid discomfort. They speak impulsively, leaking energy through explanations, reactions, and confessions that do not serve them. And without noticing, they give others power over their inner world. Yet silence, intentional, grounded silence, is a different path entirely. It is the path of those who understand that their words carry weight, that their truth deserves protection, and that their energy is sacred. Silence allows you to witness your thoughts before they become your fate. Silence gives you the space to understand whether a feeling is truth or merely a temporary storm. Silence teaches you to respond instead of react, to align instead of defend, to observe instead of collapse. Silence is not suppression. It is selection. It is choosing what deserves your voice and what deserves your stillness. When you remain silent in moments of provocation, you do not lose power. You prevent others from stealing it. When you remain silent in moments of confusion, you allow clarity to arrive without force. When you remain silent in moments of emotional overwhelm, you prevent yourself from speaking words born from wounds rather than wisdom. There is a profound discipline in being able to sit with your own thoughts without immediately expressing them. It is a discipline that turns emotional chaos into inner steadiness. It is why monks observe days of noble silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that words shape reality and clarity must precede expression. Silence also reveals truth. It shows you who demands your reaction and who respects your calm. It exposes who is comfortable with your boundaries and who needs your constant emotional availability to feel in control. It reveals relationships built on genuine connection and those built on noise. The more silent you become, the more loudly people's intentions are heard. And in that revelation, you gain wisdom that no argument, explanation, or debate could ever offer. Silence is also a form of self-respect. It teaches you that your inner world is not a public forum. It teaches you that not everyone deserves access to your wounds, your fears, your dreams, your softness. It teaches you that your truth is sacred and should be shared intentionally, not impulsively. The more you practice silence, the more you begin to speak with purpose. Your words become clean, measured, grounded. People listen differently because your voice no longer competes with noise, it carries the weight of stillness. Silence becomes your anchor. It becomes the space where intuition rises, where wisdom gathers, where emotion transforms. In silence, you realize that many problems dissolve when you refuse to energize them with reaction. Many conflicts fade when you stop feeding them with words. Many misunderstandings clarify themselves when you step back instead of stepping in. And many people reveal themselves when you no longer rush to fill the silence they cannot tolerate. But the greatest gift of silence is this: it reconnects you to yourself. When you stop explaining, you start hearing your own truth. When you stop reacting, you start feeling your own boundaries. When you stop talking, you start listening to your breath, to your intuition, to the subtle guidance you constantly drown out. You realize you do not need to speak to be powerful. You do not need to explain to be understood. You do not need to argue to be right. You do not need to be loud to be felt. Your presence becomes your voice. Your stillness becomes your strength. Your silence becomes your teacher. And when you finally embody this truth, you walk through life differently, lighter, wiser, grounded. You no longer fear silence. You rely on it. You no longer chase validation. You rest in your knowing. You no longer waste words. You honor them. This is the paradox of awakening. The quieter you become, the more power you carry. Because silence is not emptiness, it is the birthplace of clarity, the companion of wisdom, and the foundation of unshakable peace. There comes a moment in your inner deepening when you finally recognize that your life moves with far more harmony when you stop forcing outcomes and start aligning with the natural rhythm of things. Most people drain their spirit, not through effort, but through resistance. Resisting change, resisting uncertainty, resisting endings, resisting the flow of life. Because they fear losing control, they cling to timelines, push against reality, demand answers prematurely, and try to make life bend to their expectations. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering arises not from what happens, but from the tension between what is and what you insist it should be. When you force, you create friction. When you align, you create flow. And flow is not passivity. It is the art of moving in harmony with life rather than wrestling against it. You begin to discover that life becomes gentler the moment you stop arguing with the present moment. Instead of demanding that doors open, you wait for the right one to unlock naturally. Instead of rushing to fill every silence, you allow clarity to bloom in calm spaces. Instead of controlling how people see you, you allow your truth to speak for itself. Instead of chasing love, success, or certainty, you hold your energy steady and let what is authentic rise toward you. Alignment is the quiet confidence that what is meant for you will never pass you, and what passes you was never meant to stay. This understanding softens your grip on everything: plans, relationships, outcomes. You stop forcing conversations to go your way. You stop pressuring yourself to be further ahead. You stop molding yourself to fit situations that don't feel right. You realize that insisting life unfold on your terms only leads to exhaustion, not fulfillment. When you align, however, you begin to move intuitively, responding to subtle signals rather than old fears. You trust your inner rhythm more than external pressure. You listen before acting. You observe before committing. You allow life to reveal its timing instead of trying to outrun it. In this space of non-resistance, you find clarity that force can never produce. You begin to notice which paths feel light and which feel heavy. You sense which relationships expand you and which compress you. You recognize which opportunities flow effortlessly and which require you to betray your peace. Life whispers constantly, but you only hear it when you stop pushing. Alignment also transforms your relationship with time. You no longer panic when things take longer than expected because you trust that delays often carry hidden protection. You no longer rush into decisions because you trust that what's right will feel steady, not urgent. You no longer criticize your pace because you understand that growth unfolds like nature, season by season, layer by layer, without force. And with this shift, a beautiful freedom emerges. You stop trying to make life happen and start allowing it to unfold. This does not mean you give up ambition or effort. It means your effort becomes clean, intentional, aligned, rather than anxious, reactive, or fear-driven. It means you act from clarity, not desperation. You pursue from truth, not comparison. You choose from intuition, not pressure. And because you are no longer fighting reality, your energy becomes powerful, focused, and calm. You begin to experience a quieter kind of success, the kind that emerges from deep inner coherence rather than external struggle. People feel this shift within you. They notice the ease in your presence, the steadiness in your energy, the clarity in your decisions. You become someone who does not chase or cling or force. Instead, you attract, you resonate, you invite. This is the natural consequence of alignment. The right people move toward you. The right opportunities find you. The right answers rise when you are still enough to hear them. Life begins to collaborate with you because you are no longer interfering with its flow. And the more you align, the more you realize that you never needed control. You needed trust. You never needed to force. You needed presence. You never needed to dominate the path. You needed to walk it with awareness. Alignment is the art of meeting each moment without resistance, allowing life to guide you rather than trying to dominate the river with your hands. It is not passive. It is powerful. It is the strength of a tree that bends in the wind, yet never breaks, the wisdom of water that flows around obstacles, yet always finds its way. When you choose alignment, you choose peace over pressure, clarity over chaos, authenticity over approval. And in this gentle surrender, you discover the deepest truth. Life is not something you must conquer. It is something you learn to dance with. There comes a stage in your inner refinement when you begin to understand that your environment is not just a backdrop to your life. It is a silent architect shaping your thoughts, emotions, decisions, and even your destiny. Most people underestimate the power of the spaces they inhabit, the voices they surround themselves with, the energies they allow into their field. They assume they can remain centered while living in chaos, stay calm while drowning in noise, stay focused while surrounded by distraction, stay spiritually awake while moving through environments that constantly pull them into unconscious patterns. But Buddhist insight reveals a simple and profound truth. Your mind becomes what your environment feeds it. If you bathe in noise, your thoughts will mirror that noise. If you surround yourself with fear, your spirit will shrink to fit that vibration. If you keep company with conflict, your nervous system will learn to stay braced for battle. If you live in emotional clutter, your clarity will fade beneath its weight. Your environment is not neutral. It shapes your inner world with every moment you spend within it. This is why monks retreat to temples, mountains, and forests, not to escape the world, but to return to themselves in an environment that supports awakening rather than suppressing it. And while you may not live in a monastery, you can still create a sacred environment externally and internally that nourishes your peace instead of disturbing it. Your external environment begins with the people you choose. Some people bring calm presence, wisdom, and gentleness. Their energy invites you inward. Others bring chaos, drama, noise, and constant emotional storms. Their presence pulls you away from your center. Notice how your spirit responds around each person. Your body knows long before your mind admits it. There are people who feel like sunlight, quiet, steady, warming you without demanding anything. And there are people who feel like windstorms, unpredictable, exhausting, sweeping you into their turbulence. Choose carefully, because no spiritual practice can compensate for environments that continuously drain you. Your environment also includes your physical spaces. A cluttered room breeds a cluttered mind. A noisy home breeds a noisy heart. A space filled with unresolved energy becomes an echo chamber of old patterns. But a clean, quiet, intentional space becomes an altar for clarity. Even small acts, opening a window, lighting a candle, removing objects tied to old pain, adding elements of nature, can shift the entire emotional temperature of a room. Your spirit breathes differently in spaces that honor peace. But perhaps the most important environment is your digital one. Most people flood their minds with endless streams of information, comparison, opinions, conflict, and noise, without realizing they are training their nervous system to stay in constant alertness. The mind becomes crowded with voices that are not yours. The heart becomes burdened with emotions that are not yours. The spirit becomes dull under the weight of stimulation that never stops. Digital chaos is the new form of mental pollution, and it requires boundaries just as much as physical spaces do. Curate what you consume. Guard your attention like sacred fire. Protect your mind from content that disrupts your clarity. Your energy rises or falls depending on what you allow in, but the deepest environment of all is the one you create within yourself. You can live in the quietest room and still carry a storm inside if you do not tend to your inner space. You can surround yourself with peaceful people and still feel restless if your thoughts remain unexamined. The internal environment is shaped by your breath, your awareness, your self-talk, your emotional hygiene. You must clean your mind the way you clean your home regularly, intentionally, with care. Meditation is the sweeping. Silence is the dusting. Reflection is the clearing. Letting go is the decluttering. Compassion is the fresh air. Your inner world becomes a sanctuary when you treat it like one. And once you experience the feeling of living in environments, inner and outer, that respect your peace, you become unwilling to return to the environments that once silently suffocated you. You stop tolerating relationships that disturb your nervous system. You stop keeping items that tether you to old identities. You stop engaging with content that steals your presence. You stop living in spaces that feel heavy, chaotic, or unaligned. Instead, you begin to choose with intention. The people you welcome, the energy you allow, the spaces you inhabit, the thoughts you entertain. Your environment becomes a reflection of your awakening. Your world becomes an ally instead of a battle. Your surroundings begin to support your transformation instead of sabotaging it. And slowly, you rise not by forcing your growth, but by removing the conditions that once suppressed it. This is the power of choosing environments that nourish your soul. They make your peace sustainable, your clarity natural, your growth inevitable. When you shape your environment with intention, your life transforms without struggle, because you finally understand that where you live internally and externally is not just scenery, it is destiny. There comes a profound shift in your spiritual unfolding when you finally understand that confidence is not built by being louder, bolder, or more assertive in the world, but by quietly honoring your own truth without needing anyone to validate it. Most people mistake confidence for display. They think it is measured by how often they speak, how strongly they insist, how visibly they assert themselves. But this kind of confidence is fragile because it depends on external acknowledgement, applause, agreement, recognition, or reassurance. And anything that depends on the outside world will crumble the moment the world stops responding. True confidence is different. It is silent, rooted inward. It does not need to be proven. It needs only to be lived. And Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper truth. Confidence arises not from convincing others, but from no longer betraying yourself. Every time you silence your needs to keep peace, your confidence weakens. Every time you doubt your intuition to follow the crowd, your confidence erodes. Every time you tolerate what disturbs your spirit, you teach yourself that your inner voice does not matter. But the moment you begin choosing your truth softly, consistently, without explanation, you begin to rebuild a confidence that cannot be shaken. It happens in small things, in saying no to obligations that drain you, in trusting your discomfort instead of dismissing it, in honoring your boundaries even when others don't understand, in speaking only when your spirit is aligned, not when your ego feels threatened, in walking away from situations that no longer honor your peace. Confidence grows every time you choose alignment over approval. It grows every time you protect your energy instead of leaking it for validation. It grows every time you act from clarity rather than fear. It grows every time you stand quietly in your truth, even when no one sees. The greatest myth is that confidence must be loud. But look at nature. Mountains do not announce their power. Rivers do not boast of their depth. The sun does not argue to prove its light. They simply are, and their presence is enough. Likewise, the most confident souls are those whose presence carries a stillness that cannot be performed. They do not chase attention because their energy is whole within itself. They do not seek to impress because their worth is not negotiable. They do not bend for approval because they no longer fear being misunderstood. They are anchored not in ego, but in essence. And the world feels this difference. People sense when your confidence comes from inner truth rather than outer noise. They feel the groundedness in your decisions, the steadiness in your boundaries, the clarity in your energy. You become someone who doesn't need recognition to feel complete. You become someone whose silence carries more weight than most people's speeches. This is the kind of confidence that cannot be taken away because it is not built on perception. It is built on presence. It does not fluctuate with praise or criticism. It does not collapse under rejection. It does not inflate with attention. It simply exists as a natural expression of someone who knows themselves deeply. To cultivate this kind of confidence, you must first cultivate intimacy with your own being. You must learn to hear your intuition beneath the noise of fear. You must learn to trust your internal signals more than external pressure. You must learn to treat your truth as sacred instead of negotiable. And this requires slowing down so you can feel what is real for you. It requires silence so you can hear the wisdom beneath your thoughts. It requires solitude so you can separate your voice from the world's. It requires boundaries so you can protect the space where your truth lives. Confidence at its core is self-honesty. Not the loud honesty that seeks confrontation, but the quiet honesty that says, "This is what I feel. This is what I know. This is what I choose. This is who I am." And when you honor this truth, you no longer walk through life timid, apologetic, or uncertain. You no longer shrink yourself to be accepted. You no longer doubt yourself because others do. You no longer trade your peace for belonging. Instead, you walk with a steady, unshakable sense of inner authority. You move like someone who trusts the ground beneath their feet. You speak like someone who knows their voice carries weight. You love like someone who understands their worth is not measured by how much they sacrifice. And you live like someone whose inner compass is clear, uncluttered, and sovereign. This confidence transforms your relationships because you no longer settle, chase, or compromise your soul for connection. It transforms your decisions because you choose from alignment rather than fear. It transforms your path because you no longer wait for permission to become who you are meant to be. The world becomes quieter inside you. The noise loses its influence, and what rises in its place is a presence so steady, so clear, so grounded, that nothing external can weaken it. This is true confidence, the kind that does not shout, does not tremble, does not ask. The kind that simply is, because it comes from living in unwavering integrity with your own being. There comes a revelation on the inward path when you finally understand that most of your suffering comes not from what people do to you, but from the meaning you attach to their actions. Someone's silence becomes an insult. Someone's delay becomes rejection. Someone's mood becomes your responsibility. Someone's distance becomes your failure. Your mind seeking certainty begins to fill the gaps with stories. Stories shaped by old wounds, ancient fears and insecurities you have carried for years. But Buddhist wisdom offers a liberating truth. You are not hurt by events. You are hurt by the interpretations your mind creates around them. The mind is a storyteller, constantly weaving narratives to make sense of the world. But these stories are often inaccurate, exaggerated, or rooted in past pain that has nothing to do with the present moment. When someone doesn't reply quickly, your mind may whisper, "They don't care." When someone speaks short and bluntly, your mind may conclude, "I did something wrong." When someone pulls away, your mind may scream, "I'm not enough." But these reactions are reflections of your inner wounds, not reality itself. You suffer because you mistake your thoughts for truth. You suffer because you fuse with stories instead of observing them. You suffer because you react to assumptions instead of what is actually happening. Once you begin to see this clearly, your entire emotional world starts to shift. You start questioning the stories your mind creates. You start asking, is this true? Or is this fear speaking? Is this fact? Or is this interpretation? Is this the present moment? Or is this an old wound resurfacing? And in that moment of questioning, the story loses its power. You begin to understand that most people's actions have nothing to do with you. Their silence reflects their own inner world. Their distance reflects their own fears, stress, or limitations. Their tone reflects their own emotional weather. Their choices reflect their own path. The ego personalizes everything. Wisdom personalizes nothing. When you stop taking life so personally, everything becomes lighter. You stop trying to read minds. You stop assuming worst-case scenarios. You stop creating suffering by filling silence with fear. Instead, you allow people to be human, imperfect, inconsistent, evolving just like you. And you allow yourself to remain grounded in truth rather than drowning in assumption. This shift brings a profound peace because it teaches you to separate what happens from what your mind adds to it. You begin to see the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain is what happens. Suffering is the story you attach to what happens. Pain is the emotion. Suffering is the interpretation. Pain is the moment. Suffering is the narrative that repeats for days, months, years. When you stop feeding your mind stories, your emotional life becomes clearer, quieter, more truthful. You begin responding instead of reacting. You begin observing instead of absorbing. You begin questioning instead of collapsing into fear. And the world begins to soften. You also become more compassionate toward others because you understand that everyone is fighting silent battles you know nothing about. Not every cold message is rejection. Not every distant behavior is personal. Not every harsh tone is about you. People act from their own pain, their own conditioning, their own wounds, their own overwhelm. Wisdom is the ability to hold space for this truth without allowing it to destabilize your own peace. This understanding creates emotional freedom. You no longer rely on others to behave perfectly in order to feel secure. You no longer allow someone else's mood to dictate your self-worth. You no longer collapse when someone disappoints you. Instead, you develop emotional spaciousness, the ability to witness someone's behavior without internalizing it. The Buddha taught, "In the seeing, only the seen." This means encountering reality as it is not as your mind imagines it to be. When you stop layering assumptions on top of experiences, you meet life directly. You experience the moment without distortion. You feel emotions without turning them into stories. You witness events without turning them into catastrophes. This is emotional liberation. This is peace. This is the end of unnecessary suffering. And as you deepen into this way of being, something remarkable happens. Your relationships become healthier because your communication becomes cleaner. Your inner world becomes quieter because your mind loses its grip. Your heart becomes lighter because it no longer carries interpretations that never belonged to it. You begin to see that peace was never the absence of difficulty. It was the absence of unnecessary stories. And once you stop believing everything you think, you begin to experience life as it truly is: manageable, fluid, ever-changing, and far more gentle than your mind once believed. There comes a quiet revelation in your journey of awakening when you start to understand that much of your inner turmoil comes from expecting others to give you what you have not yet learned to give yourself: understanding, presence, respect, consistency, compassion, or love. You wait for others to validate your worth, reassure your doubts, soothe your insecurities, or choose you in ways you have not yet chosen yourself. But Buddhist wisdom teaches a profound truth: you cannot receive from the outside what you have not cultivated on the inside. If you do not nurture yourself, external nurturing feels temporary. If you do not trust yourself, external reassurance feels fleeting. If you do not honor your own boundaries, external respect feels fragile. If you do not choose yourself, external affection feels unstable. And without realizing it, you begin to place the weight of your happiness on the shoulders of others, expecting them to heal wounds they didn't cause, fill voids they cannot see or carry, burdens they cannot understand. This creates disappointment, not because people are unkind, but because you've given them a responsibility that belongs only to your own soul. The more you expect others to rescue you, complete you, or make you whole, the further you drift from your own inner authority. But when you begin turning inward, when you offer yourself the love, presence, gentleness, and truth you once demanded from the world, your entire relationship with life transforms. You no longer cling to others out of fear. You no longer chase affection to feel worthy. You no longer collapse when someone withdraws their attention. You no longer lose yourself trying to keep others close. Instead, you begin to build a relationship with yourself so steady, so rooted, so nourishing that external relationships become a complement, not a lifeline. This is what self-devotion truly means. Not ego, not selfishness, but the willingness to meet your own needs with compassion instead of outsourcing them to others. It means sitting with your feelings instead of seeking distraction. It means validating your own emotions instead of waiting for someone to understand you. It means honoring your intuition instead of asking others to tell you what to do. It means nurturing your inner child instead of hoping someone else will heal them. It means holding yourself through discomfort instead of expecting perfection from the people around you. When you learn to give yourself what you once begged for, something miraculous happens. You stop moving through life hungry. You stop approaching relationships with emptiness disguised as love. You stop needing constant reassurance because you have become your own anchor. And because you no longer seek from others what you can provide yourself, your relationships become lighter, freer, more authentic. You allow people to be human because you no longer rely on them for emotional survival. You stop taking things personally because your self-worth no longer depends on external behavior. You stop fearing abandonment because you have learned that you cannot abandon yourself. You begin to experience what the Buddha called the inner refuge, a sanctuary within you that remains steady regardless of the world's fluctuations. From this refuge, you discover that the love you generate within becomes the love that naturally radiates outward. The respect you show yourself becomes the standard you hold in every relationship. The boundaries you honor internally become the boundaries you uphold externally. The compassion you extend inward becomes the compassion you offer others without sacrificing yourself. And gradually, you step into a deeper truth. You are not here to be completed. You are here to be revealed. You are not seeking another half. You are awakening to your whole. This shift in consciousness frees you from emotional dependency. It frees you from the endless cycle of seeking and suffering. It frees you from the belief that your worth lies outside of you. And in this freedom, you begin to attract relationships from a place of fullness rather than fear. People who meet you where you are not because you need them, but because you resonate with them. People who honor your boundaries because you honor your own. People who recognize your value because you recognize it first. When you become your own source, external sources become blessings, not necessities. You move from hunger to wholeness, from dependency to empowerment, from seeking to embodying, and you realize perhaps for the first time that the world cannot give you what you refuse to give yourself. But once you offer it inwardly, the world begins to mirror it back to you in ways more profound than you ever imagined. There comes a deep moment of clarity in your inner awakening when you begin to understand that peace is not found by adding more to your life, but by removing what obstructs your natural state of calm. So much of your suffering does not come from what is present, but from what needs to be released. Old identities, outdated habits, unhealthy dynamics, unconscious attachments, and emotional residue you continue to carry long after their relevance has dissolved. Most people attempt to heal by piling on new practices, new affirmations, new routines, without realizing that the true essence of healing is subtraction, not addition. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the mind, like a lake, becomes clear not by adding purity, but by letting the sediment settle. Clarity emerges when interference stops. Peace arises when the unnecessary falls away. And when you begin to release the layers that obscure your inner stillness, you discover that peace was never missing. It was buried. Much of what you call anxiety is the mind's attempt to hold on to what must be let go. Much of what you call confusion is your intuition being drowned by noise. Much of what you call stress is your resistance to truths you already know. Much of what you call exhaustion is the weight of emotional clutter you have not placed down. You cannot rise when you are carrying the past like armor. You cannot move forward when your hands are full of old stories. You cannot hear your own wisdom when your mind is crowded with unprocessed thoughts and outdated beliefs. This is why letting go is not a loss, it is liberation. It is a return to your original spaciousness. It begins with noticing what no longer feels aligned, the habits that drain you, the relationships that constrict you, the commitments made from guilt rather than truth, the expectations that exhaust you, the versions of yourself you maintain for approval. Release does not always mean walking away. Often it means loosening your inner grip, releasing the need to be right, releasing the urge to control outcomes, releasing the fear of disappointing others, releasing the pressure to constantly perform, releasing the belief that your worth must be proven. The moment you stop gripping these illusions, your energy begins to return to you. You breathe more freely. You think more clearly. You feel more authentically. Letting go becomes a daily practice, a spiritual housekeeping of the heart. With each release, you make space for more truth, more ease, more alignment, and your life, once cluttered with competing demands and emotional entanglements, becomes spacious again. In this newfound space, you begin to rediscover yourself, the you beneath the fears, the you beneath the conditioning, the you beneath the expectations, the you that has always been present, waiting to be seen. This kind of release is not dramatic. It is gentle, steady, and deeply transformative. It teaches you that peace does not need to be created. It needs to be protected. Healing does not need to be forced. It needs to be allowed. Growth does not require pressure. It requires honesty. You will notice that as you release, people in your life respond differently. Some will move closer because your authenticity resonates with them. Some will drift away because your clarity disrupts the roles they expected you to play. Some will resist your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. And some will quietly honor your evolution because they too seek inner freedom. Let them all move as they must. Release is not just about letting go. It is about trusting the movement of life. Trusting that what falls away is making room for what aligns. Trusting that what leaves creates space for what is meant to arrive. Trusting that your peace is worth more than your attachments. Trusting that you do not need to cling to what is already complete. In this spaciousness, you begin to live differently. You speak more honestly because you are no longer ruled by fear. You choose more intentionally because you no longer act from obligation. You forgive more easily because you understand the weight of holding on. You love more freely because you are no longer loving from scarcity. And slowly, you realize that your life is not transformed by what you add, but by what you courageously release. Peace becomes natural. Clarity becomes effortless. Presence becomes your default state. Because you have made room for yourself again, not the armored self, not the conditioned self, but the true luminous self that emerges only when the unnecessary is finally put down. There comes a transformative turning within when you realize that your life has been shaped far more by your habits of attention than by the circumstances you encounter. What you repeatedly focus on becomes the architecture of your inner world. What you feed with awareness grows roots inside you. Whether it is peace, worry, gratitude, fear, resentment, or clarity. Most people live with their attention hijacked, pulled endlessly by notifications, consumed by other people's emotions, entangled in imagined scenarios, scattered across 1,000 small distractions that drain their presence. They do not realize that their suffering often comes not from life itself, but from the way their attention is constantly scattered, leaking energy into things that do not nourish them. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a simple, powerful truth. Your attention is your life. Whatever masters your attention masters you. When your attention is reactive, your life becomes chaotic. When your attention is unconscious, your life becomes automatic. When your attention is divided, your energy becomes diluted. But when your attention is intentional, your life becomes aligned, peaceful, and lucid. Attentional mastery is not about forcing focus. It is about reclaiming sovereignty over where your awareness rests. It begins with noticing how much of your inner suffering is sustained by mental habits, replaying old conversations, anticipating rejection, overthinking small interactions, rehearsing worst-case scenarios, comparing your life to curated images of others, drifting into endless loops of self-doubt. None of these patterns arise from truth. They arise from undirected attention. Your mind behaves like a wild horse running wherever it pleases, unless you learn to gently guide it. And like any practice, this guidance begins with awareness. Notice where your attention goes when you are tired. Notice where it goes when you are stressed. Notice where it goes when you feel insecure. Notice where it goes when you are peaceful. These patterns reveal the truth of your inner conditioning. To change your life, you must change the path your attention walks each day. Instead of feeding your fear with imagination, feed your breath with awareness. Instead of feeding your insecurities with comparison, feed your heart with gratitude. Instead of feeding your anxiety with what-ifs, feed your presence with what is. Instead of feeding your wounds with repetition, feed your healing with compassion. The mind becomes calm, not by suppressing thought, but by redirecting attention towards stillness. This is why mindfulness is powerful, not because it empties the mind, but because it anchors your awareness in the present moment, where peace always exists. When your attention returns to now, the breath entering your chest, the sensation of your feet on the ground, the stillness between thoughts, your suffering dissolves because you are no longer feeding it with focus. Attention is nourishment. What you attend to becomes stronger. What you ignore loses its power, and slowly you begin to realize that every thought is an invitation, not a command. Just because your mind calls you does not mean you must follow. Just because a thought appears does not make it truth. Just because a fear arises does not mean it deserves your attention. When you learn to observe thoughts rather than obey them, you reclaim your life from the noise of the mind. This mastery transforms everything. Emotional storms pass more quickly because you no longer fuel them with attention. Unhelpful patterns lose their momentum because you no longer energize them. External chaos influences you less because your attention is no longer tossed around by every disturbance. You become grounded, steady, inwardly centered. And as your attention sharpens, so does your intuition. You begin to sense what expands you versus what drains you. You begin to feel truth in your body, not in your fears. You begin to make decisions from clarity rather than impulse. Your attention becomes a compass that points you home. With time, you discover that attentional mastery is spiritual freedom. You no longer feel controlled by your circumstances because you have learned to control your focus. You no longer drown in thoughts because you have learned to witness them. You no longer lose yourself in noise because you have learned to return to silence. Life becomes less about what happens and more about how you meet each moment with awareness. And in this awareness, you begin to taste a profound truth. Peace is not something you must seek. It is something you stop abandoning. It has always been here, waiting in the spaces between your thoughts, waiting in your breath, waiting in your stillness, waiting for your attention to finally return. There comes a quiet but powerful awakening when you begin to see that your life expands or contracts in direct proportion to the courage you bring to each moment. Not the loud courage that seeks recognition, but the inner courage to face your own truth. dismantle old patterns and step into new possibilities, even when fear whispers its familiar warnings. Most people do not lack opportunity. They lack the courage to trust themselves enough to respond to opportunity. They hesitate, not because the path is wrong, but because they have grown comfortable in the predictability of their limits. Fear becomes their compass, comfort becomes their cage, and self-doubt becomes their script. They wait for permission, for certainty, for guarantees before they allow themselves to choose differently. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper truth. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move with fear and not be ruled by it. Fear arises whenever you grow beyond your conditioning. It appears not to stop you, but to test how deeply you trust the calling within you. The fear of being seen, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of failing, the fear of outgrowing people you love, the fear of becoming someone unfamiliar to your past self. These fears are not signs you should turn back. They are signs you are on the threshold of expansion. Courage is the willingness to stand at this threshold and step forward anyway. It is choosing authenticity even when acceptance is uncertain. It is choosing growth even when the outcome is unknown. It is choosing alignment even when the old ways still tempt you with their familiarity. True courage begins internally in the quiet decision to stop betraying your own becoming. It is felt in the moment you say, "I will no longer shrink to fit the comfort of others. I will no longer silence myself to avoid discomfort. I will no longer pretend to be small to keep peace. I will no longer cling to identities I have outgrown." Courage is the subtle force that moves you toward truth, even when your voice trembles, your heart races, or your mind resists. Every act of courage, no matter how small, expands your spirit. Saying no when your whole life trained you to say yes. Walking away when everything in you wants to cling. Speaking your truth when silence feels safer. Choosing rest when productivity is worshipped. Choosing healing when avoidance feels easier. Choosing yourself when self-abandonment has been your habit. Courage is not dramatic. It is devotional. It is a commitment to the soul rather than the ego. It is a sacred refusal to continue living in ways that dim your light. And the more you practice this internal courage, the more your external life transforms. You begin to attract experiences that match your new frequency. You begin to meet people who resonate with your evolution. You begin to take risks that once felt impossible. You begin to walk paths that once felt unreachable. You begin to inhabit a version of yourself you once doubted you could become. And yet courage does not guarantee ease. Growth will challenge you. Expansion will stretch you. Letting go will sting. But the pain of growth is far kinder than the pain of staying stuck. The Buddha taught that a single moment of courage can break the cycle of suffering, because courage disrupts the patterns that keep you locked in repetition. Each courageous choice is a declaration: I am more than my fear. I am more than my past. I am more than the version of myself that stayed small. With each step into your courage, your life becomes less about survival and more about truth. Less about pleasing and more about integrity. Less about comfort and more about authenticity. And slowly, you realize that courage was never about becoming fearless. It was about becoming free. Free from the illusions that kept you small. Free from the constraints of your past. Free from the expectations of others. Free from the narrative that you are not enough. Your courage does not need to be loud. It needs to be real. It needs to be yours. It needs to rise in the moments when you feel yourself shrinking. It needs to whisper louder than your fear. It needs to guide you toward the life your soul has been quietly asking you to claim. And when you finally choose courage not once but continually, you become someone you deeply trust, someone your past self would admire, someone your future self will thank, someone who does not just survive their life, but consciously shapes it. That is the power of courage. It builds a bridge between who you have been and who you are becoming. And you cross that bridge one brave step at a time. There comes a profound shift in your inner evolution when you recognize that not every battle deserves your energy, not every invitation deserves your presence, and not every conflict deserves a response. Most people waste enormous amounts of emotional power by engaging with situations that do not align with their peace debates, fueled by ego arguments, rooted in misunderstanding conflicts born from projection, and dramas designed to pull them into someone else's storm. They feel obligated to defend themselves, to correct every misconception, to prove their worth, to fix every tension, to fight every fire. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a liberating truth. You do not rise by fighting smaller battles. You rise by refusing to descend to them. The moment you stop engaging with noise, the moment you stop chasing closure from the unwilling, the moment you stop explaining yourself to the closed-minded, the moment you stop participating in cycles of conflict, your energy begins to return to you. You begin to realize that peace is not found through victory. It is found through non-participation. When you no longer allow people to pull you into their chaos, you reclaim the authority over your emotional world. Many of the conflicts you face are not reflections of your truth. They are reflections of someone else's inner turmoil. Their anger is their wound. Their misunderstanding is their limitation. Their projection is their unhealed pain. Their judgment is their fear. When you internalize what belongs to them, you suffer unnecessarily. When you allow their chaos to invade your inner world, you abandon yourself. But when you recognize that not all storms are yours to walk into, you begin to protect your peace with intelligence rather than defensiveness. Not responding is not weakness, it's wisdom. Walking away is not surrender, it's sovereignty. Some situations resolve themselves when you refuse to fuel them. Some people reveal themselves when you stop reacting. Some conflicts dissolve when you choose silence instead of counterattack. Some relationships clarify when you stop overextending. And some battles naturally fade when you withhold the attention they were created to attract. You begin to master the art of selective engagement, responding from awareness, not impulse, from clarity, not ego, from stillness, not emotion. You choose where your energy goes, the way a monk chooses where to place each step intentionally, consciously, without waste. You no longer rush to correct misunderstandings because you understand that people hear through the filter of their own consciousness. You no longer engage in arguments designed to provoke because you understand that peace is not found in winning debates. You no longer defend your choices to those determined to misread you because you understand that those who truly see you do not need explanations. You no longer participate in drama because you understand that your energy is too sacred to be scattered in places that do not elevate your being. As you withdraw from unnecessary battles, your life becomes lighter, clearer, more spacious. You begin to see how much emotional noise you once tolerated. You notice how often you abandoned your peace to manage the discomfort of others. You realize how often you confused reaction with responsibility. And slowly, you reclaim your emotional sovereignty. You understand that your energy is your most valuable currency. Every moment you spend defending, explaining, or arguing is a moment stolen from your growth, your healing, your clarity, your evolution. You begin to invest your energy wisely in conversations that expand you, in relationships that nourish you, in practices that ground you, in choices that align with your highest self. The Buddha taught, do not engage in pointless disputes. They steal your peace and obscure your path. Your life transforms when you embody this teaching not as philosophy, but as practice. There is power in silence. There is strength in restraint. There is clarity in non-reaction. There is dignity in walking away. And there is profound inner freedom in understanding that you do not need to fight every battle, because your peace is worth more than any victory born from conflict. This is how you rise, by choosing peace over drama, clarity over chaos, alignment over ego, and inner freedom over external validation. And in that choice, again and again, you step into the version of yourself who no longer breaks for what is beneath your becoming. There comes a moment of deep inner awakening when you begin to see that the life you long for, the peace, the clarity, the groundedness, the emotional freedom, can never be found in the future if you cannot inhabit the present. Most people live suspended between the weight of yesterday and the anticipation of tomorrow, rarely touching the richness of the moment they are actually living. Their minds wander into memories that ache, fantasies that distract, anxieties that distort, expectations that burden. They treat the present not as a home, but as a hallway, something to hurry through on the way to something better. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a truth both simple and profound. The present moment is the only place where life actually exists. Happiness cannot be experienced later. It can only be experienced now. Healing cannot happen in the past. It can only unfold now. Peace cannot be acquired in the future. It can only be felt now. Every breath you take happens in the present. Every insight you discover arises in the present. Every moment of stillness, every spark of joy, every revelation, every truth, these are born only in the now. Yet the mind, untamed and restless, is constantly fleeing it. This is the root of so much suffering. You abandon the moment in front of you for a moment that doesn't exist. You revisit old conversations that cannot be undone. You rehearse fears that may never unfold. You project meanings onto futures you cannot control. You miss the quiet beauty of what is right here. The present moment often feels too simple to satisfy the mind, too quiet to impress the ego, too ordinary to capture attention. But beneath this simplicity lies everything the soul needs: spaciousness, awareness, truth. The mind fears the present because it cannot manipulate it. It can only witness it. And witnessing requires presence. Presence requires surrender. Surrender requires trust. When you begin to anchor your awareness in the present moment, you start to feel something extraordinary, a stillness beneath the surface of your thoughts, a gentle clarity that was always there, a sense of aliveness, raw and immediate. This is the doorway to inner freedom. You realize that your suffering is amplified when you resist what is happening rather than meeting it with openness. You feel how tension softens when you stop arguing with reality. You notice how your breath deepens when your mind stops running. You see how peace emerges when you stop feeding the stories that pull you away from now. Being present does not mean ignoring the past or abandoning the future. It means relating to them consciously. You learn from the past without living in it. You prepare for the future without escaping into it. You inhabit the now without making it a means to an end. presence becomes a practice of returning again and again to what is actually unfolding, not what your mind imagines. And as you train your awareness to rest here, you begin to see life with new eyes. The taste of food becomes richer. The colors of the world become more vivid. The sound of your breath becomes soothing. The sensation of your feet on the ground becomes grounding. Conversations deepen. Emotions clarify. Thoughts become less overwhelming. Even pain softens because you meet it directly rather than adding layers of resistance. The now becomes enough. More than enough, it becomes sacred. And from this sacredness, your entire experience of life transforms. You stop rushing. You stop chasing. You stop seeking fulfillment outside of yourself. Instead, you begin to harvest the richness hidden in each moment. Presence becomes your meditation, your medicine, your anchor. In moments of anxiety, you return to the breath. In moments of fear, you return to the body. In moments of confusion, you return to awareness. In moments of chaos, you return to stillness. This is not escapism, it is mastery. When you learn to live here fully, your mind loses its grip on you. Your emotions become visitors rather than dictators. Your fears become passing clouds rather than storms. Your peace becomes stable, not conditional. And slowly, you begin to understand that life is not happening tomorrow. Life is not waiting for you in a different version of yourself. Life is not something you will arrive at once everything makes sense. Life is here now in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this present moment that quietly holds everything you've ever been seeking. There comes a sacred turning point in your inner journey when you begin to understand that your energy is not infinite, and your spirit was never meant to be poured endlessly into everyone and everything around you. Most people live as if their inner light is an inexhaustible resource, constantly giving, constantly accommodating, constantly absorbing, constantly stretching themselves beyond their emotional capacity. They offer empathy without boundaries, compassion without discernment, availability without rest. They believe that saying yes makes them kind, that self-sacrifice makes them loving, that self-neglect makes them strong. But Buddhist wisdom teaches something profoundly different. Compassion without wisdom becomes self-destruction. True compassion includes yourself. True generosity does not deplete your spirit. True kindness does not cost you your inner safety. When you neglect your own needs in the name of being a good person, you disconnect from your center and begin to live outwardly, reactive, overwhelmed, ungrounded. Your inner flame flickers because it is burning faster than you replenish it. You feel drained not because you are weak, but because you have forgotten to honor your own energetic boundaries. Your energy is sacred fire, and sacred fire must be tended, not thrown wildly into every situation that demands warmth or light. This is why monks cultivate the balance between compassion and discernment. They understand that giving without wisdom turns the giver into a vessel that eventually cracks. They know that the highest form of love is not to abandon yourself for others, but to serve others from a place of fullness, not depletion. You must learn to recognize when your energy is being consumed faster than it is restored. Notice the subtle signs, the tightness in your chest after certain conversations, the heaviness in your mind after certain interactions, the fatigue you feel around certain people, the emotional fog that lingers long after you've given too much. Your body knows when your spirit is being overextended. Your intuition knows when your presence is being misused. Your fatigue is not laziness, it is a signal. Your irritation is not impatience, it is a boundary you did not honor. Your emotional heaviness is not failure. It is a message that you are carrying too much. And when you begin to listen, you realize something liberating. You do not need to be available to everyone. You do not need to fix everything, and you do not need to save anyone at the cost of losing yourself. Wisdom asks you to step back when your energy is low. Wisdom asks you to say no when your spirit feels tight. Wisdom asks you to choose rest before collapse. Wisdom asks you to protect your inner fire as you would protect a precious lamp in the wind. Some people will not understand this shift. They will prefer the version of you who overgave, who bent easily, who made yourself small for their comfort. But their discomfort is not your burden. It is simply a sign that your new boundaries are disrupting old dynamics. And that is exactly what must happen for your spirit to heal. You begin to understand that it is not your job to carry every emotion placed in front of you. It is not your responsibility to absorb the pain others refuse to address within themselves. It is not your duty to be the emotional anchor for people who have no intention of anchoring themselves. And it is not compassion to let others drain you. It is a misalignment with your own well-being. True compassion flows from a well that is full, not from a cup that is empty. When your energy is protected, you give more consciously. You love more authentically. You help more effectively. You listen without resentment. You show up without collapsing. You connect without losing yourself. Your presence becomes medicine, not martyrdom. You become the person who gives from overflow, not obligation. You begin to understand that the calmest people are not those who give the most. They are those who know when to step back, when to breathe, when to refill, when to be silent, when to tend to their own inner world before trying to soothe the world outside. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is spiritual responsibility. It allows you to stay connected to your center, to your intuition, to your inner wisdom. It ensures that your presence remains grounded, your clarity remains intact, and your compassion remains sustainable. And when you finally honor the sacredness of your inner fire, your life transforms. You no longer confuse exhaustion with virtue. You no longer seek validation through overgiving. You no longer chase worthiness through self-neglect. Instead, you rise in quiet strength, balanced, centered, luminous. You become the keeper of your own flame, and your flame burns brighter because you finally treat it as something divine. There comes a moment in your inner growth when you begin to understand that your life changes not when circumstances shift, but when your relationship with yourself transforms. Most people move through the world seeking external stability, hoping that the right job, the right partner, the right timing, the right opportunity, or the right affirmation will finally give them the groundedness they crave. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper truth. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner alignment. When you feel uncentered within every minor challenge, feels overwhelming. When you feel disconnected from yourself, every rejection feels personal. When you feel uncertain internally, every choice feels risky. When you feel empty inside, every disappointment feels like proof of unworthiness. But the moment you begin returning to yourself, your inner landscape changes, the world outside you responds. You start to realize that the versions of you shaped by survival, fear, and conditioning are not the truest expressions of your being. They are adaptations, not identity. You learn to shrink so others wouldn't feel threatened. You learn to please so others wouldn't leave. You learn to perform so others would approve. You learn to silence yourself so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. You learned to carry emotions so others wouldn't have to. Slowly, quietly, unconsciously, you became a mosaic of expectations rather than an embodiment of truth. But your spirit remembers who you were before the world told you who to be. And the journey of returning to yourself is not about becoming something new. It is about removing what is not you. This return begins in the smallest ways, reclaiming your preferences, listening to your intuition, honoring your boundaries, telling yourself the truth, allowing your emotions to be felt instead of buried. Piece by piece, you begin to take back the parts of you that were abandoned. You begin to trust the quiet voice inside that you once ignored. You begin to value your inner signals more than external validation. And as this relationship with yourself deepens, your entire life shifts. Decisions become clearer because they come from alignment rather than fear. Relationships become healthier because you no longer seek from others what you deny yourself. Boundaries become easier because they are rooted in self-respect, not self-protection. Success becomes more authentic because it reflects your true values, not society's noise. Even solitude becomes comforting because you are no longer alone, you are with yourself. Self-abandonment is replaced by self-attunement. Self-judgment is replaced by self-compassion. Self-doubt is replaced by self-trust. And emotional turbulence begins to settle because you are no longer fighting yourself. You begin to understand that the longest and most transformative relationship you will ever have is the one you build with your own consciousness. When you nurture this relationship, when you treat yourself with kindness, curiosity, forgiveness, and presence, your entire life structure becomes stable from the inside out. Conflict affects you less because you do not internalize it. Rejection hurts less because it no longer threatens your worth. Uncertainty frightens you less because you trust your ability to navigate it. Loneliness diminishes because you have learned to be your own companion. And the world feels less hostile because you are no longer at war with yourself. Returning to yourself is the foundation of all spiritual growth. It is the anchor that keeps you steady through change. It is the compass that guides every decision. It is the vessel that holds your peace. It is the home you carry everywhere. And once you rebuild this inner home, you stop searching desperately for external shelter. You stop asking the world to give you what you can give yourself. You stop molding your identity to fit into rooms that were never meant for your spirit. Instead, you walk with the quiet strength of someone who knows themselves deeply, intimately, truthfully. Someone who no longer negotiates their values for acceptance. Someone who no longer abandons their boundaries for closeness. Someone who no longer trades authenticity for belonging. Someone who no longer fears their own truth. This is the rebirth that happens. When you return to yourself, you rise not through force, not through performance, but through alignment. And in that rising, the world begins to meet you at the level of your inner transformation, reflecting back the clarity, dignity, and peace you have cultivated within. There comes a profound deepening in your inner journey when you finally grasp that patience is not passive waiting, nor is it blind endurance. It is the quiet power of trusting the timing of your own becoming. Most people live in a constant state of urgency, pressured by invisible timelines, comparing their pace to others, measuring their worth by speed rather than sincerity. They force growth before they are rooted, demand clarity before they are still, chase outcomes before they are ready, and judge themselves harshly for not blooming on a schedule that was never theirs to follow. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a truth that dissolves this tension. Nothing in nature blooms all year, and yet nothing in nature doubts its own timing. The bamboo seed remains unseen for years before it breaks through the soil. The lotus grows in darkness long before it reaches the light. The fruit ripens only in its season, and your own journey is no different. There are periods of expansion when everything flows effortlessly, and there are periods of silence, waiting gestation, where nothing seems to move on the outside, even though everything is transforming beneath the surface. The ego resists these quiet seasons, interpreting stillness as failure, or stagnation, or punishment. But the soul knows better. The soul understands that some growth is invisible, some healing happens in silence. Some breakthroughs are being prepared long before they appear. When you practice patient trust, you learn to listen to the rhythm of your own becoming, instead of forcing yourself to match the world's pace. You stop rushing to reach versions of yourself that you have not yet grown into. You stop punishing yourself for not knowing what you are still learning. You stop abandoning the present moment for a future that will unfold in its own time. Patience becomes your anchor, not because you are willing to wait endlessly, but because you no longer cling fearfully to outcomes. You understand that life does not withhold, life prepares. When something delays, it is aligning. When something ends, it is clearing. When something quiets, it is recalibrating. When something slows, it is strengthening. Trusting this timing means releasing the belief that faster is better, or that slow means stuck, or that stillness means nothing is happening. Your spirit evolves even when your life looks paused. Your wisdom deepens even when your path looks empty. Your strength grows even when your world feels quiet. And when the season shifts, when the fruit is finally ripe, when the timing aligns, you will move forward with a clarity, readiness, and depth that rushed moments could never have given you. Impatience demands, patience receives. Impatience grasps, patience allows. Impatience panics, patience trusts. And this trust opens the door to something extraordinary. You begin to experience peace in the unfolding, not just in the outcome. You realize that life's timing has always been wiser than your expectations. Think of all the moments you wished had happened sooner, but if they had, you would not have been ready. Think of all the paths you once chased, but if you had taken them, they would have pulled you away from who you were meant to become. Think of all the times you felt delayed, but later realized you were being protected or prepared. The universe is always moving toward your evolution, never against it. When you learn to trust this, your anxiety loosens its grip. You stop feeling behind because you see that there is no race. You stop comparing because you recognize that each person's season is unique. You stop fearing missed opportunities because what is aligned for you cannot be lost. You stop rushing because you understand that true growth emerges only when the roots are deep. Patience becomes not something you practice, it becomes something you embody. A calm steadiness, a grounded knowing, a deep breath that whispers, "I am exactly where I need to be." And from this grounded place, you no longer chase life, you meet it. You allow the next version of yourself to unfold with grace instead of force. You let your destiny ripen without tearing at its petals. You live in harmony with your own rhythm, trusting that the path will open when it is time, not when your fear demands it. This is the quiet miracle of patience. It frees you from the tyranny of urgency and returns you to the natural unfolding of your own becoming. When you trust the timing of your life, you step into a peace that cannot be shaken. There comes a sacred clarity in your inner evolution when you finally understand that the world you experience is not shaped by circumstances alone, but by the lens through which you view them. Most people walk through life believing that their emotions are dictated by events, that their suffering is created by situations, that their peace is determined by conditions outside their control. They wait for life to be perfect before they allow themselves to feel centered. They wait for the world to be gentle before they allow themselves to soften. They wait for circumstances to ease before they allow themselves to breathe. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a profound truth. It is not the world that disturbs you. It is the meaning you give it. The mind, when unconscious, interprets everything through the filters of fear, memory, expectation, and conditioning. A delayed response becomes rejection. A challenge becomes catastrophe. A silence becomes judgment. A mistake becomes identity. A setback becomes doom. But these interpretations do not come from the present moment. They come from the wounds you carry into the present moment. When you see through the lens of fear, even kindness feels suspicious. When you see through the lens of insecurity, even neutral events feel threatening. When you see through the lens of past pain, even new beginnings feel dangerous. And so, your world contracts, not because it is hostile, but because your perception is. But the moment you begin to clean the lens through awareness, through stillness, through inquiry, through presence, your entire experience of life shifts. You begin to realize that clarity is not something you find. It is something you cultivate. Peace is not something you receive. It is something you practice. Resilience is not something you are born with. It is something you build through inner understanding. This shift begins with a simple but powerful question. What story is my mind telling me right now? Because the story is rarely the truth. The truth is quieter. The truth is simpler. The truth is already present, waiting beneath the interpretations that cloud your awareness. When you slow down enough to question your thoughts rather than obey them, you discover that most of your suffering is optional. You discover that many of your fears are predictions, not realities. You discover that many of your assumptions are projections, not facts. You discover that many of your limitations are inherited, not chosen. And you discover that the world is not as heavy as the mind insists. This awareness gives you power, not the loud power of control, but the subtle power of clarity. The power to see without distortion. The power to respond without reactivity. The power to understand without assuming. The power to feel without collapsing. The power to live without constantly fighting your own thoughts. This is the shift that happens when you step out of the conditioned mind and into conscious awareness. You begin to experience life as it is, not as your fears paint it. A conflict becomes an opportunity to understand. A challenge becomes a doorway to strength. A silence becomes space, not abandonment. A setback becomes redirection, not failure. A transition becomes expansion, not loss. And the world, once unpredictable and overwhelming, softens because you are no longer interpreting it through the lens of self-protection. When your inner lens becomes clear, the outer world becomes gentle. When your inner world becomes calm, the outer world becomes manageable. When your inner narrative changes, your entire experience transforms. But this clarity does not come from forcing positivity. It comes from returning to presence. When you return to the present moment, you notice that most suffering exists only in thoughts about the past or fears about the future. The present moment, when experienced directly, is often simple: a breath, a sensation, a sound, a feeling arising and fading. It is the mind that adds complication. When you learn to live here in the direct experience, not the mental interpretation, you discover a peace that cannot be shaken by circumstances. This is why meditation is powerful, not because it removes difficulty, but because it removes distortion. You begin to see clearly, without the filters that shape your world in their image. With clarity, you stop personalizing the behavior of others. With clarity, you stop projecting past pain onto the present. With clarity, you stop collapsing into imagined futures. With clarity, you stop fighting reality and begin working with it. And from this clarity, compassion naturally arises for yourself, for others, for the human condition. You begin to understand that everyone sees through their own lens, shaped by their own wounds, their own fears, their own histories. You see that conflict often comes from misunderstanding, not malice. You see that people act from their conditioning, not from clarity. You see that others are not enemies. They are reflections of their own inner battles. This understanding softens you. It opens your heart without making you vulnerable. It strengthens your boundaries without making you cold. It deepens your presence without making you passive. And slowly, a new reality begins to form, not because the world changed, but because you changed the way you see the world. You become someone who moves with grace through uncertainty, someone who sees with wisdom rather than fear, someone who speaks with intention rather than impulse, someone who listens with presence rather than defensiveness, someone who lives with awareness rather than reactivity. This is the gift of a clear lens. It returns your power, your peace, your perception, your life. And you finally understand that your freedom was never dependent on the world becoming easier. It was dependent on your mind becoming clearer. There comes a moment at the end of every deep inner journey when you finally understand that the life you seek, the freedom, the peace, the authenticity, the unshakable presence cannot be inherited, demanded, or borrowed from anyone else. It must be chosen, breath by breath, moment by moment, with deliberate awareness and unwavering honesty. Most people spend their lives waiting for transformation, as if it were an event, a sudden awakening, a dramatic shift that will arrive fully formed from the outside. They believe that one book, one teacher, one relationship, one success, or one moment of clarity will magically rearrange their entire existence. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper, quieter truth. Awakening is not a moment. It is a practice. It is the continual decision to return to yourself again and again, even when the mind wanders, even when old wounds resurface, even when fear whispers its familiar doubts. Enlightenment is not a peak you climb, once it is a path you walk for the rest of your life. A path of attention, a path of release, a path of presence, a path of courage, a path of compassion, a path of remembering who you are beneath all the layers you were conditioned to wear. The journey ends where it began with you, but the you who arrives is not the you who began. You are softer, yet stronger, quieter, yet clearer, less reactive, yet more alive, more grounded internally, even if nothing externally has changed. This is the true miracle. Transformation happens inside you, long before the world notices. You begin to see the subtle shifts. You respond where you once reacted. You observe where you once absorbed. You breathe where you once tensed. You pause where you once rushed. You speak truth where you once performed. You walk away where you once clung. You rest where you once burned out. You honor your needs where you once betrayed them. You choose yourself where you once abandoned yourself. This inner shift changes everything, even though from the outside, nothing looks dramatic. Because the deepest transformation is always silent. It happens in the spaces no one sees, the moment you choose peace over winning, the moment you choose boundaries over pleasing, the moment you choose presence over distraction, the moment you choose truth over fear. This is where your life recalibrates. This is where your spirit rises. This is where you reclaim the authority over your own existence. And yet, even with all this growth, the path is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aware. You will still stumble. You will still forget. You will still react sometimes. You will still overthink. You will still slip into old patterns. But the difference now is profound. You will notice. You will pause sooner. You will return faster. You will forgive yourself more gently. You will adjust with more wisdom. Awakening does not eliminate imperfection. It transforms your relationship with it. You stop seeing your humanity as a flaw. You stop judging your emotions as weaknesses. You stop expecting yourself to be endlessly strong. Instead, you allow yourself to be real, messy, imperfect, learning, expanding. And in that authenticity, you discover a deeper freedom than perfection could ever offer. You begin to realize that your greatest power is not in never falling, but in rising consciously each time you do. You carry the lessons of every fall with you, not as shame, but as wisdom, not as heaviness, but as direction, not as identity, but as experience. This is the quiet maturity of someone who has met themselves deeply. And from this place, you begin to live differently, not driven by ego, not controlled by fear, not shaped by expectation. You live from presence, from clarity, from truth, from the stable center that no longer gets lost in the noise of the world. Relationships shift because you no longer abandon yourself for connection. Goals shift because you no longer chase validation. Priorities shift because peace becomes more valuable than approval. Identity shifts because you no longer cling to who you were. You begin to realize that the life you are creating is not built on force. It is built on alignment, built on intentional presence rather than unconscious repetition, built on mindful choices rather than emotional impulses, built on inner spaciousness rather than outer pressure, built on self-honoring rather than self-abandonment. And slowly, gracefully, your entire existence becomes simpler, cleaner, lighter, more meaningful. You stop living for noise and begin living for truth. You stop living for others and begin living from the center of your own being. You stop living in reaction and begin living in awareness. You stop living in survival mode and begin living in conscious creation. In the end, this is what all spiritual teachings point to, not a life without problems, but a life where your inner state is no longer controlled by them. Not a life without emotion, but a life where you are not enslaved by your emotions. Not a life without chaos, but a life where chaos no longer infiltrates your peace. You become the calm in your own storm, the anchor in your own ocean, the witness of your own mind. And this inner sovereignty, the ability to live from your center, is the greatest freedom a human being can attain. You finally understand that the true path is inward and the true home is within. And from that home, you rise not loudly, but undeniably, not to impress, but to embody, not to be seen, but to be aligned. And in that alignment, your presence becomes its own form of teaching, not through words, but through the quiet radiance of someone who has returned to themselves fully. This is where the journey leads. This is where the path ends. And this is where the real living begins.